This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. And John Edwards here. How you doing, John?
Great. How are you doing, Jeff?
Well, I tell you what, if I could keep the internet going, I'll be doing really good. But yeah, as Linda mentioned in the chat, folks, my internet is a little sketchy tonight. It's been dropping out, so you'll see me at some time going with some weird look on my face, frozen or something.
Yeah, but Jeff, you know me as a conspiracist, Jeff. I think you're purposely being jammed. I think there's a frequency jamming, or I mean, come on, the stuff we talk about.
1.6 gigahertz, you know.
Yeah, it's at 1.6 gigahertz. They mentioned, you know, your frequency being jammed. I really believe there's, because we've had shows which just have gone dead for whatever reason.
You're right. Yeah,
and,
we have.
You know, we've had Haunted Blunderbuss, and we've had, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff on the show. But we've had shows where our signals have been jammed or dropped. You know, Christian Roper comes to mind when his signal was being jammed and your signal was being jammed. Yeah, so hopefully there's none of that tonight.
Also, our friend up in Nova Scotia in the Shag Harbor.
I mean, Lori Wickens.
Lori Wickens, he was talking about the same thing, getting jammed. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, it won't happen too much tonight, folks. But if you see me frozen for a moment, just bear with it. I'll be back. John will figure out what to say. He'll keep the show going.
Or you know, we'll signal you somehow. We do have a signal device to bring you back. oh, there he goes. He's gone. Right.
Oh, John's frozen. But yeah, apparently it's still working. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so welcome, folks, for coming by. And as it says, we are going to be talking about the secret of Skinwalker Ranch, which is the Beyond part of our Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Facebook page and live stream. And I just wanted to give some shout outs. Man, it's been a while. Hello, yep. Paula. Paula's here with us. Thank you, Paula, for coming tonight. Let's see. I want to go back and give a few shout outs. We got Kat is here. Anne Marie, of course, is here. Thank you, Anne Marie. Jeff's in the house. April's here. Let's see. We got Karen's here. Sharon's here. Oh my gosh, a lot of the Awoken One. AO is here.
Hey.
Yep. Let's see who else we got. Joanne is here. Hi, Joanne. Jan, of course. Hi, Jan. How are you doing? Robot. There's Robot, and Roberta's here. Oh my goodness, good crowd tonight.
A lot of people.
Curtis Bennett. Hi, Curtis. Sandollar Ray was one of the first ones here. Kate's here. My goodness, good crowd for tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate y'all showing up here tonight. Seth Bound and Paula, of course. We are going to be talking Skinwalker Ranch, but before we get to that, I wanted to give you a little update of some of the other things that is happening, and hopefully I don't get cut out too much here. But as most of you already know, from south of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
Oh, Jeff is south of Skinwalker Ranch.
And cool. you're not known as Jeffrey 106 for the gigahertz frequency. That's pretty good.
Jeffrey 1.6.
I love it. We have to make Jeff. We have to make shirts that say Jeffrey 1.6. We're making the shirts. We're gonna make the hat. You know,
that's great, Jeff. Yeah. Well,
we gotta make the shirts, Jeff. It's too good.
Oh my goodness,
that's great.
Hey, Wanda, how you doing? Glad to see you here, Wanda. Appreciate your coming.
Jeff, are you there?
I think I'm back. Okay, hopefully I'm
back.
He's
back. Okay, there he is.
It froze for a second. Yeah, that's what's going to happen tonight, off and on, folks. I'm sorry. I do have Starlink. Satellite internet. It is truly high speed and it does the show, but the problem is you need to make sure that there's no obstructions. And where I have the antenna right now, the dish, it's a small dish. It's standing in the yard out front, and there is some trees. So I've got a pocket that I'm looking at up to the sky, but there are some trees around. So I am getting some obstructions, and that's what's causing the issue. So
now, Jeff, do you have a triangle where you are that if you broadcast above the triangle, you hit the bottom of something?
You know, I think that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Right over the hill, there is a triangle. Yeah, I can see it swirling on Facebook right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know that we're back.
No,
Still
we're
swirling.
live.
There it goes. Yeah, there. Okay, now it's back.
Yep.
It was swirling there on Facebook. Sorry, folks. But anyway, it's going to happen tonight. Yeah. The triangle. Yeah, it's a triangle.
Oh. Oh, that's awful.
Oh, you guys are hilarious. Um, yeah. So anyway, I am in the process of. I moved to Michigan from Western Pennsylvania. I'm up in Michigan right now. I am working on my mobile, the mobile J-Free 906 mobile unit. And once that happens, I'll be able to travel around, and we're going to be doing a show from lots of different locations as we travel. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But until I get that going, it's going to be a little sketchy from time to time. Also, I wanted to also mention that we have some guys going up to Nova Scotia pretty soon, Tom and Henry. We're looking forward to seeing some of the reports that they get when they're up there. That's going to be happening next week, I believe. They're going to be up there. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the information that they give back to us, maybe some live stuff. We'll see what they can pull off while they're up there. They're going to get to meet a lot of people that I would love to. I hope to get to meet when I'm up there. But I'll be going up later. Let's see what else. I think that I wanted to mention too that I was talking to Ryan Skinner today a little bit this morning. And Ryan Skinner, if you don't already know, is a man who has done a ton of research on Skinwalker Ranch and also the entire Uintah Basin, which where Skinwalker Ranch. Had a
Jeff
book.
has
Oh,
Jeff,
there it is.
you have left us. Can you repeat your last two sentences, Jeff?
Okay, yes. Yeah, I was talking about Ryan Skinner has put out a book. And again, he is part of the Skinwalker. He was actually in season 2 of Skinwalker Ranch. He has a book that he put out, and it's called The Basin Files.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it is really, really good. It is a compilation of, and I'm going to show the picture. Let's see. I'm going to bring this up real quick. Let's see. Share. Oh, I didn't because of the stoppage. It took this out. Here we go. Okay, so there it is. That's it. That's his book. It's called Skinwalker Ranch: The Basin Files. I got the audio book for and I listened to it, and it is great. It's a collaboration of firsthand reports of strange close encounters and sightings of UAPs seen both on and around Skinwalker Ranch. Its audiobook details the most important case files and reports that I have collected or he has collected over the past 15 years. And it does a deep dive into exploring what is happening not only within the borders of Skinwalker Ranch, but beyond. It's good, folks. If you like this stuff and you're interested in it, it's a good read. And I listened to it as I was actually driving up here in my truck. I listened to the whole thing, and it was really good. So you need to check that out if you get the chance. It is out on Amazon on audio and Audible. And but anyway, so we're going to get him to come on the show. We've been talking to Ryan about that and having him, asking him to come on. So he will be doing that with us and then giving us an update. This guy is an authority on all things Skinwalker Ranch and the entire
Nice.
basin. So wanted to mention that as well. He's a good friend of the show. We like Ryan a lot. So let's see. All right. I tell you, this has been. And I put out that little information today. I got to mention this too for our Oak Island friends that are out here. I did a little snippet today. I put up earlier today about some great news, exciting news about the curse of Oak Island and what is happening on the island right now. And we got pictures from Karen Publicover. She has the Facebook page, which is called Oak Island from the Other Side of the Causeway. And Karen picture today. She loves to take these pictures and share them with us. She got a picture today of a two semis going over hauling some equipment, and these were from a place called Dumas Mining. Okay, Dumas Mining. So check out my video if you haven't seen it already. Check that out. It was put up earlier today. It's about 14 minutes long, something like that. But these guys are a mining company. And what did Rick say in drilling down here just recently? Rick had said that if the muon technology spots an anomaly, something solid, and if they're sure about it, I don't know if they're going to drill down to it or whatever, make sure they hit this anomaly. He wants to tunnel to it. That's what he was thinking. I want to tunnel to it and use this new tunneling techniques where they go in and they actually concrete the walls as they go, so sealing off any moisture or water getting in. And here we got Dumas Mining heading out onto the island with trucks and equipment today. So that's got to be something really cool. So check it out. I mean, that's great news. And we will do this whenever we get new information about things that are going on Oak Island and in Skinwalker Ranch. We will let you know as quickly as we can to give you updates on all of that. So what do you think? Should we dive into this?
Absolutely. There were 2 good episodes, Jeff. I mean, they're fantastic.
They were really good. And let's see. I've got my pictures, as you guys know. Now I was a little limited, and the picture quality isn't quite as good as it normally would be. I tried to do my best to get really good pictures, but these are not as good as the ones we normally get. Let me see. What have I missed here? It's gonna go okay. I'm just reading some of the chat that's going by here.
Oh my God, what a great idea!
Imagine it's something permanent. Part of the tours. Oh, wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be awesome. That would be great.
I would pay money for that. How about you?
No, absolutely. That's a given. Hey, want to take it, right through the tunnels, right? $10 extra, no problem. Here you go.
Yeah,
be worth it. That's a no-brainer. That's a great idea.
That is. That'd be a tourist attraction for sure. I would do it.
Translucent or clear walls somehow. I mean, once it's concreted in, I mean, just
see the offshoot tunnels and stuff like that.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
Oh, Roberta's in Alberta. Roberta from Alberta. All right.
Jeff. Awoken One gives you some props here.
Oh yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, you watched it. The mining company. I tell you, it's gonna. I you know me, I love to speculate about things like that. And I put myself out on a limb sometimes saying what I think it is, and then it turned out to be wrong. I thought the long reach excavator, might be frozen. I thought the long reach excavator was heading out to the swamp or the bog. It's actually a bog, not a swamp, by technical terms. But apparently it's not. They spotted it sitting up on top of the hill between the Money Pit and Smith's Cove. So I'm not always right, but I love to speculate and make guesses of what's going on. So that was up there. So let's dive into it. Let's get into Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. The guys, these 2 episodes were really cool. And as you all know, we have this anomaly that the guys that, I know some people were making a joke out of the fact that they keep talking about the Triangle Swamp, right? The Triangle Bog on Oak Island. And now they talk about this triangle on Skinwalker Ranch. It's just a coincidence. It's not that. And here's the thing. Over the course of last season, we have seen these guys do every bit of testing that they possibly could with different pieces of equipment and have come up with something to say that above about 5,000 feet, I think it varies, above the triangle, there's something up there, something that they can't see. And now they are doing everything that they possibly can to try to make it show itself or get some more data on what this could possibly be. Well, go ahead.
If it's something, and I can go down this rabbit hole a bit, and it's something that's of intelligence, that's controlling this, it's just toying with them. It's like, oh, let's cut the power here, let's cut the power there, and we'll get into that. But excavator done, power, batteries dead. That's kind of like paranormal stuff too. What's causing these equipment failures? It's just, and we'll dig into this tonight. But I keep seeing them like, well, something's draining them, something's causing the interference, and there's no explanation why.
No, there really isn't.
It's
Not
crazy.
yet, anyway, and that's what they're after. They're really trying to nail this down, and you're exactly right, John, that something is messing with them.
Well, if it's one or two, Jeff, okay, maybe, but literally 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, and it keeps adding up of equipment failures. It works right when it's pointing this direction, or it's looking over here, but when it's actually pointing at an anomaly, it just it dies
Mhm.
or it fails.
Or
I
it
mean,
fails.
we'll get into it, but it something doesn't add up.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
You know.
And so in the show tonight, right off the, or I should say, actually 2 weeks ago, in season 3, episode number 3, Inner Fear-Ence. Um,
Oh,
yeah, they, over, like I said, over the last season, they were trying to determine they're trying to determine what exactly this anomaly is. So they're trying everything they can. They're pulling out all the stops, trying to figure out what this thing is. One of the things that they mentioned, and here they are. I'm going to bring this back up now. The first photograph. This is
okay.
everybody sitting around in the. They call it the command center. Sitting around the table and having a meeting there, and they're trying to figure out what other ways they could do. They were talking about the fact that when they shoot the rockets up that they were doing last season, the rockets go up there and they put all kinds of sensors and things like that on them. They go up and then they come down, but they're not up long enough to really gather good data. It just passes too fast. They're only up for, if they shoot up and then they fall back down a few seconds and it's over, and it's not giving them enough data, if it gives any data at all, which
And
sometimes it doesn't.
And if it gives data, Jeff, like episodes 1 and 2, it's wrong. The altitude data was incorrect.
Yeah.
It was
Oh yeah.
off quite a bit. I mean, you're flying a
Correct.
helicopter
So,
with that data, you're crashing.
yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
so
Oh yeah. Yeah.
what is it about the instruments not working properly
Yeah.
and not
Well, you
syncing
saw.
properly? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you saw last season when they were up with, um, uh, um, I forgot it. I'm at a complete loss for his name. They're flying the helicopter. When they were up in the
Yeah.
helicopter last season, they um they had an anomaly that was telling them that they were only 40 feet above the ground. Um, when in fact they were several thousand feet above the ground. They
Yeah.
could see out the window that they were several thousand feet off the ground.
Sure.
But if you notice that little uh, thing was popping up, the altimeter was popping up telling them
Mm,
40 to 50 feet, and it was fluctuating and blinking out and stuff like that. If something like that would happen at night when
yeah.
they couldn't see the ground that well, that could cause a catastrophic event.
It's
Camera.
very similar. It's very similar to Bermuda Triangle in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
where
yeah, exactly.
suddenly, I mean, it acts like that area of the world where
Hmm.
suddenly you think you're 3 or 4 or 5,000 feet up and you crash
Yep.
and you're lost at sea or something happens to you.
Yep. Gil, that's a really good question. And I wondered about that myself. Yeah, why don't they use drones? And that's a fantastic question, because I don't know if a drone, and again, I'm not a drone operator. I would think, can a drone fly 5,000 feet? Can they still have control over it? Are the radios
Well,
good enough?
a military grade drone could.
Military drone. Yeah.
Yeah, they have drones. It depends. There's some drones that act as small aircraft, and there are some drones that are
Yeah.
more like propeller driven. So it depends on the type of drone. But
Yeah.
yeah, they can reach that altitude. Some of the really nice ones.
I would think so. And like you said, yeah, they could load it up with equipment, and then they could actually just fly it up there and let it hover at different levels. Bring it up, bring it down. Maybe that, and again, I don't know why they haven't tried that yet, but I think that's a great question. I was thinking of that when I was watching the show
Yeah.
last week. I was thinking that same thing. Is, why don't they just use a drone?
Oh,
Drones
oh,
can only fly about 300 feet because
oh,
of aviation laws. Oh,
hmm.
so they might have to get that. I don't know about. I don't have Facebook. I'm limited on my number of monitors here tonight, folks. So I'm not sure to give. If you don't mind, if you want to be recognized for your comment, please put your name on there so we can at least know who you are. I'm sorry, I don't have my Facebook up in front of me here to be able to acknowledge who said that. But if that's the you go. There's a good reason right there why they don't use drones. They might be able to get permission right over that area.
Sure. Oh, is he gone?
No, I'm just looking down. I'm because I don't have Facebook up. I have to watch. I get a lot of information from Linda and Jan during the show, and she said, "Remember when they took the drones out near the triangle and tried to send them up, and they wouldn't even leave the ground." That's right. I remember that
Oh,
now.
yeah.
They had a failure. They were failing. That's right. I do
Hmm.
remember that now. Thank you, Linda, for bringing that up. I completely forgot about that. So there's a very good point why they don't. But in this meeting that they were having right here on the picture I have up, they were talking about how could we go about another way of getting something up at different levels, sustained up there for a while, so that they could get some data. So they came up with the idea of getting a small plane, a Cessna, and having a Cessna go up and travel back and forth. So they get a hold of Cameron. That's the guy. I was trying to think of his name. I was at a complete loss for his name there for a moment. But Cameron knew of someone. Um, oops, that's the wrong picture. That was next. And so Cameron got a picture of or someone that could help them with this. So they got this discussed and got ready to get a pilot and a plane and get it loaded up with equipment and send it out there. So while that was happening, now we can go back to the picture.
Hmm.
We've got Kandus and Tom, and they are out visiting on the McConkey Ranch, which is 34 miles northeast of Skinwalker Ranch. Now, this is a very a great thing that I'm glad they're doing.
He is gone. Jeff. Let's see if we can get him going.
There we go. Hopefully, I'm back now.
Jeff, are you there? Jeff? Jeff?
Ground control to Major Jeff. Yes, I am.
We were worried about you, Jeff. I was signaling out the signal.
Take my protein pill and put my helmet on. I don't have a helmet over here, so I don't. Yeah, but anyway, so like I said, was saying there that they have taken this great time to go out and talk to people, and this is why I was talking about Ryan's book, Ryan Skinner's book, because of the fact that they are now reaching out to people in the area and getting information from them, gathering data on their experiences. Now, this particular gentleman that he went out to see, Jonathan Dover, he is a member of the Navajo Nation, and they went out to see Jonathan, and and so and there he is. There he's standing by this cliff face back here, where they have put some foil helmet. Where they have some anomaly or some. Now, these would be pictographs, correct? When they're paintings, they're called a pictograph, and when they're carvings, they're called a petroglyph.
Petroglyph, yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. So these
That's
would be pictographs that are been up there for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. And so they went out to meet Jonathan, and there he is there, Jonathan Redbird Dover, Navajo Nation's ranger.
Yes.
And they got to look at some of the things that he wanted to show them. And here are a couple of them I have up here on the one.
Those are petroglyphs. They look to be carved. I don't think. Yeah, those are definitely petroglyphs, Jeff. And if you look at them, you can see they're carved actually into the rock, Jeff. Mm-hmm. So those look to me more of petroglyphs than not pictographs.
Yeah, you're right.
Man,
so
Jeff is really. You're getting jammed, Jeff. The frequency jamming. It's working. But those look carved to me. I'm going to say petroglyphs for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, petroglyphs, and some of them where they're scratching into they call it the desert staining. Those would be pictographs, but some of them are definitely carved. Yeah, some of them are. You can actually see the grooves in the rock where they're carved. So,
no, Jeff, it doesn't end, Jeff.
We're gonna have a lot of fun with this tonight. I see it now. Yeah, 1.6 gigahertz.
Jeffrey
Well,
1.6.
J Free 1.6. So yeah, so the petroglyphs have been around for thousands of years or
Oh
more.
man.
So show some these types of car.
These types of carvings have been around for quite a while, and it looks to be the carvings are trying to portray something that the Navajo nation would have seen in their history. I think that's what Jeff is going with it as he phased in and
Yes,
out.
yes,
And
that's
and
exactly right.
and so you basically encode or decode, in this case encode for someone else to decode. You're making representations of what you see. And so what are these now in native culture, Jeff, as you phase in and out? um they there's many stories of the history of contact with the star people.
Hmm.
That's a persistent storyline within a lot of First Nation and um Native American stories.
Yep.
That's in their history, oral history, as they pass it down from father son, mother daughter, through their tribes. So what is this? Now I've seen this before many times. This particular pattern, and it's always a reference to stars and space and things of that sort.
Yep.
So, or maybe even a wormhole or something that they're seeing. You know, what is that, Jeff?
Well, this was now in Jonathan's interpretation. This spiral is often depicted as a portal or a.
Mm,
And I liked what he said. First he talked about the Navajo talk about travelers that come to visit, and then he talked about um, he put his hands together and he talked about this the different dimensions that are interweaved with each other. And I've talked about
hmm.
this. You and I have discussed this on Beyond
Sure.
Our World,
Yes.
talking about the different dimensions and how they are interweaved with one another. And sometimes there's places where they overlap. And
Yes.
through, I'm sorry.
No, I agree
Okay.
with you. Yes. 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 Absolutely.
And sometimes something will bleed over from it. And he talked about frequencies as well. He
Mm,
mentioned that several times when he was discussing this. He talked about frequencies. John explains that the idea of skinwalkers or gods or UFOs coming from the sky would involve a portal. When Candace questions John as to where this portal would be, John tells her that there are stories, even stories of UAPs entering through the mesa, through the rock.
mm,
And then Candace asks him to come out and check out things at Skinwalker Ranch. So he talked about the frequencies. There's also a sound that can open portals, according to Jonathan. Now, this gets really intriguing.
what?
Sound is something that I've had a lot of, you know, um, interest in how sound can do different things. What were you gonna? You were gonna make a comment on something. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. Sound has been used to cure and heal.
Hmm.
There used to be sound chambers or resonance chambers. The
Yep.
ancients used to use them.
Yep.
There's a lot that you can do with sound. Supposedly, the walls of Jericho came tumbling down because of sound. The right
Exactly.
frequency, the right vibration. It's Tesla. All the universe is made up of frequency, sound, or a frequency, vibration, and energy, which is true. Every bit of it. So Tesla was absolutely right. Frequency, sound, or frequency, vibration, energy can open a portal very easily because you're really kind of bending the laws of physics, so to speak. I
Yep.
don't see it. Theoretically, Einstein believed that, by the way.
Right. Yes. That's very true. And Amy mentions that sounds. There are sounds that can open portals, according to the ancient Celts.
Mm,
So I'm very intrigued by sound and
sure,
what it can do. And sound also travels on frequencies, right? So it kind of ties that together.
sure. Hmm.
Um, Sound is registered in different frequencies. So some archaeologists think that the spirals refer to a type of portal. of some type. But John also tells Candace and Tom that there also is sound, as we just mentioned, and called infrasound, which humans can't hear because of the frequency. Now we know that we've talked about that, and that
Hmm.
was one of
Hmm.
the things I talked about when we talked about can't touch this, and I was referring to
Yes,
the
yes,
fact that
yes, yes.
there are certain we can only see a certain wavelength of all the visible light or all the possible ranges of light, infrared to gamma and everything.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
only can see certain small portion of it. Same thing with sound. There's so many sounds out there on frequencies, but we can
Yes,
only hear a certain portion.
we can only see
So
a certain amount of that light spectrum too.
exactly.
And so if you're intelligible being and you want to be kind of off the network, so to speak, you build your technology to be outside the realm of what we can see, hear, you know, experience.
Yep.
So, your visuals are just outside our spectrum. Your sound is just outside
Right.
our spectrum.
Right.
And so many of those crafts, no sound, no, the triangle crafts that we see a lot of reports of, no
Mhm.
sound at all. Anti-gravity, no sound. Or is there a sound and we just don't hear it?
Right. There is. That's what I'm thinking. There is a sound. We just don't. We just can't hear it. Just like
Sure.
dogs can hear a dog whistle that we can't hear.
Hmm.
So, that right there, and so if there is a certain frequency of sound or, that can open a portal, I think it's very conceivable, very believable.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's what he was talking about here. He was talking about this particular portal or this spiral, meaning a portal that can be opened and then allow the visitors to come and visit. And as John mentioned earlier, the carvings and the pictographs on the walls of the cliff are going to indicate what they've seen. They don't have cameras, so they're going to put down what they've seen,
Sure.
document it in some way, and that's how they would do it. And it makes total sense, and that's why they put on some of um, I was going to say regalia, but some of um, costume that they wear.
Sure.
I hate
Sure.
to use
For ritualistic
the
costumes that they use to
costume, but
reenact. Hmm.
yes, yes, because they are reenacting and portraying what they have seen over the many years,
Sure.
and
Sure.
that's why it intrigues me so much that they actually go out now and talking to people in the area, like Jonathan here, because they want to gather that information. So,
And Jeff, just as an aside, the recording of anomalies such as UAPs and such, we did, and you and I did a little study of its medieval art,
mhm,
carvings earlier,
mhm,
all the way through presidents that have documented sightings and things of that sort. It depends on the medium. We didn't have cell phones, we didn't have videos back then. So how were you going to do it? You're going to put in images of either literature or paintings or stone carvings or whatever medium you had to record what you were seeing.
mhm.
And even some images on the ground of what you were seeing that can be seen thousands of feet up.
Yep,
You were recording what you were seeing. You may not understand what you were seeing, but you were recording it for someone else to see.
yep, exactly, yep, exactly right. Let's see. Jeff would have a better signal, yeah, possibly, but yeah, yeah, for people that are sensitive to it, yeah, could definitely be a noisy place.
We
So,
we have a question for you,
sure
Jeff.
of this, what's that?
We have a question for you.
Oh, if a triangle falls in the backyard in Michigan in the yard, can anyone hear
I would say no,
the
Jeff.
the triangle? I hope it doesn't fall because yeah, it's getting yeah. Oh boy, as we
Oh
digress.
man.
Um, so I just thought it was really cool because Jonathan was talking about these portals, and this is something of their lore, of the Navajo lore that is brought to the forefront. I think that you add all this up, and you're going to get closer and closer to the answer. Um, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're trying to collect all the data they possibly can. Here's another shot of another one, and again, these are things that I believe they have seen, so they're recording it in some way. Here's a couple more pictures. I mean, this is pretty wild stuff, with these what they've drawn here.
Hmm.
Does that look like he's holding some kind of a
Weapon.
staff or something? a weapon, maybe. That
Or
almost
Santa.
reminds me of um, Stargate.
A bit.
The
It's almost like the staff or whatever he's holding would activate.
yeah, activate something. Yeah,
Interesting.
maybe it makes that sound that they can use it to activate something. Pretty cool.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so anyway, they
Well, he's going to discuss. I think Jeff is going to go. Here are some more of the petroglyphs. And to our right, we have a very interesting petroglyph that almost looks like, Jeff, you're back, some sort of space suit or some sort of alien. Can't tell what the one on the right is holding, Jeff. But these seem to be more creatures that are either part of the mythic imagination or, these are actual creatures that they would have seen.
Yep.
And
I think
Jeff's
I'm back
nodding.
now.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
And some says, some look like Yetis. Well, they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I overturned myself.
Jeff, you're being accused of being part of the Matrix now. We're not really seeing you. We're seeing an image of you that the Matrix.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So the guys, I'm going to jump up. We're going to get to the next part here, and hopefully get moving along because I'm going to keep, phasing in and out. So anyway, they make their way over to the airport where they're going to drop off Eric and get him all up in there with Kendra. Kendra Hart is the pilot, and Pilot Makers and Advanced Flight Academy. She's a teacher, chief pilot. She's got the Cessna that they're going up. And now what they're trying to do is fly this particular pattern like this. They called it a push broom. Back, up and back. Where you take a push broom and you sweep the gymnasium floor. Yep. Or mowing the lawn. You're going to make a pattern.
That's like mowing the lawn, striping it up, back, up, back.
Yep. And so right off the bat, they send her out. Eric, they get them all loaded up with the equipment and the cameras and everything else. They send the plane out from Roosevelt Municipal Airport, which is only like 5 or 10 minutes flight time away. And they start doing this particular grid pattern. But right off the bat, they're noticing that her transponder, which they're calling the 80, what was it called? The ADSB. The ADSB was not showing them in the area. And again, this is one of those weird anomalies. Why was it not working?
Why? How is that not possible?
She double checked to make sure it was transmitting. They saw the actual transmission because they have antennas up so they could actually get the transmission and see that it was the frequency it was transmitting on that frequency, but yet it was not showing up on this particular. I love this here. This where they're able to capture the ADSB the actual transponder signals from different airplanes so they know what's in the area.
Sure.
And they was not showing up. The plane was not showing up on here at all, which again is one of those things. And as you mentioned earlier, John, if it was one thing that failed, okay.
Yeah.
2 things, maybe. But
maybe.
So many things fail that that's not a coincidence.
But Jeff, some of these things that are failing are life-threatening. You're not transmitting a transponder for your plane, and there's another plane heading or in your vicinity that doesn't know it. Or your altitude meter isn't working properly, and you can easily have a crash. I mean, some of these things just are life-threatening if they're not working. And why that transponder? I would be scared to fly a bit if the plane I was on, this transponder wasn't working. Because it's not taking off. I mean, it's taking off and landing. Not so much when you're in the air. I mean, you have visual contact, but
right.
And
that's what they did. They actually got. They were talking to her on the plane, and also to Eric, and trying to gather the information about them. So they ended up going to Caleb and asking Caleb if he had eyes on them to make sure that they were flying over the and over Skinwalker Ranch, which they were able to confirm that they were flying over, even though the ADSB did not pick them up. So it identifies any traffic in the area. Travis tells the group the antennas and radio frequencies are functioning properly. Travis noticed that in an aircraft that could be Eric or Kendra, but Thomas, he first saw one, and Thomas shows him, nope, the airport's on the other side. That's not them. That's a different airplane. What was kind of weird about this whole thing, and here's some of the antennas they were using to track the signals from the plane. And of course, here's the triangle where they were going to be doing their pattern over as they kept up. And then all of a sudden, Eric says that they were getting some sort of noise coming through. And it was at this same time that the 1.6 gigahertz showed up in the control room. And you see Eric there, he's saying, we're getting all kinds of noise up here all of a sudden. Suddenly it came out of nowhere. And at that same time, Travis was showing a signal of
6 gigahertz.
1.6 gigahertz. Actually, is 1.62 or 1.600.815. A lot of people say that, there's nothing should be in 1.6. They're being general when they say 1.6.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yes, there are things that use cell phone signals. There are many things that use 1.6, but in the particular range that they're looking, it's 1.6, and there's more to it than that. It's more signal than, or more frequency range than that. But the thing of it is that every time something odd happens, they're getting that signal pops up at 1.6. Why? And every time that happens, there's something going haywire, and something shows up, or some anomaly happens whenever they get that signal. So they're getting it all of a sudden up in the plane. They're seeing the signal in the control center. And then Eric says he sees a shadow of another aircraft showing up on the ground besides them. He can see their plane, the shadow of their plane. He sees another one. So what the heck is causing that? Why was there showing up another shadow on the ground? He could see it. And so he went to, and they talked to Caleb. They asked Caleb, do you see another plane in the air? And Caleb's like, no, there's nothing else up there. Nor was there anything on the transponder on the ADSB.
Now, was it a shadow of another plane, or was it a shadow of a UAP?
I don't know. They asked him, did it look like a plane? And he just said it's another shadow. I don't think he could determine.
It's another shadow.
Yeah.
You can cloak yourself, but sun's beaming down, you're going to still cast a shadow, whether you're cloaked or not.
Right.
If it's a cloaking, and the military has cloaking devices, but how do you get away from a shadow? You're still taking up mass, sun rays still, yes,
sunlight in some way.
Even if you're transmitting, LEDs technology, whatever the technology is, when you're illuminating your bottom of your craft with something that's above, as above, so below, you're still going to block the sun's rays, and you're going to still create a shadow anomaly. So why is there a shadow anomaly with no craft?
Right. Now, Jan asked a good question here. Actually, the sound at this point was only in the. Am I still here? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you are. Was that still in the 1.6, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
And Amy, I'm not familiar with the L band frequency, so if you could put something on chat to illuminate us about what the L band is and what it may be used for.
Right. And that's when he asked him to double check the ADSB to see if there were any other aircraft in the area when he saw the shadow, and there weren't any. And that's when she said, the pilot, I've forgotten her name all of a sudden. Kendra Hart. This is what she said. They are seeing anomalies over the ranch. She said that. So she was seeing it also. It wasn't just Eric, but she was seeing it also. Now, we didn't get a picture of it. We didn't get to actually see it ourselves. It wasn't part of the show. But that brings you back to that portion to which we talked about earlier, where the helicopter was flying. Cameron was flying the helicopter up there, and they had that thing telling them that they were only 40 feet above the ground, and yet they had this figure right here that passed underneath the helicopter a few times. So there's definitely something up there. Something's going on.
And Jeff, we know the military's been around that area, and there's unidentified craft that aren't giving off any transponder or frequency that suddenly show up that are military colors. You know, very dark. You can't really tell what they are, and they show up and then leave.
Yep.
And without explanation of where the aircraft come from or who is on the aircraft or who owns the aircraft. There's no visible markings, and by law, there has to be visible markings on some sort of numbering system on your plane, so you know who or what it is.
Yep. So here's that frequency is at 1.623.450. That's where the frequency was at that time, and it was interfering with Eric's radio. It was then, and this is the weird thing too. It was also interfering with them in the control room. They were getting this this echoing sound was coming back in the control room. They could all hear them. The one thing that hit me at that time, and this I know from watching The Curse of Oak Island, is that everybody is mic'd up. You got Jack and everybody's wearing a microphone underneath their shirt. Every single, just about Gary, all of them are wearing microphones so that they can be heard when they're talking about stuff. I don't know if Travis and Eric and Thomas and Caleb and all them guys, Dragon, I don't know if they're all wearing microphones like that. That's what I thought about when I heard this. When I heard that echoing, I thought, I wonder if they're wearing microphones or not. And maybe that wearing that microphone is what is helping to create that echo that they were getting, hearing themselves in the control room coming over the monitors. That I don't know. You would think that they would check that to make sure, but again, I don't know. I think they probably would on Oak Island, but I don't know. And because remember when they had them all, they all went outside.
Yes.
And it was still happening. They could still hear them standing outside talking, and it was coming through the speakers inside the control room. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped, and it stopped echoing. Eric's radio up top in the plane, the noise stopped on there, and at the same moment, this frequency ended transmission. So while this frequency was happening, the interference on the radio, the echoing back in the control room, all that was happening while this was transmitting.
As if it was transmitting some kind of commands or codes or something to do the jamming. I mean, is it downloading like data points? Because when you download in computer code, you can hear it, but it's very robotic. It sounds, you can tell it sounds like it's binary series of zeros and ones. Boop, 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 boop. You know, so what was it? It wasn't intelligible because at one point Travis throws on the mic and lets us hear it, but it doesn't sound like anything intelligible. But it does sound like something's being transmitted.
Right. Yep.
Without explanation of what that transmission is or was. And again, to Amy's point, there was a feedback loop that you could also hear.
Maybe, yeah.
So, yep. So, what was that about? You know.
Well, I don't know, but it's pretty interesting how when this transmission stopped, so did all the interference that they were getting. So,
now, did the transmission correlate with the failure of equipment as well? Seems like it did.
I think there was cases where it did, yes.
Where it did, it correlated with the failure of equipment, and the minute that stopped, suddenly the equipment was working properly. So, again,
why and who was doing that? Now, you know what this made me think of? Have you seen the movie Contact?
Yeah.
Okay. In the movie Contact, folks, if you've seen this movie Contact,
it's a good movie.
Yeah, great movie. Jodie Foster. in this movie, one of the things that was happening was that they got a transmission.
Mhm.
Buried in this transmission was data, and they finally found that out later, that there was data within the transmission. And Travis keeps talking about kicking the hornet's nest and see what happens. Is
Mhm.
this signal some way of that somebody's trying to communicate with them and they need to look for data within that transmission? That's what I got thinking. I thought, well, maybe it's them they're knocking on the door and they want you to open the door. They're trying to communicate. I don't know.
Possible. I mean, but
It
you would
is.
have to understand. You would have to understand the language of the transmission.
Yeah.
Just like coding, just like any other form of coding. But this is electronic coding, so it would be laced with within the transmission. Is it frequencies? Is it binary? What is it? How is it laced? How is it being coded? And then do you understand that language? Now,
Yep.
the language I would personally transmit if I was in that position as as an otherworldly being would be mathematics, because
Mhm.
everyone seems to all species, I would imagine, has some form of mathematics that they would understand.
Right.
It's kind of it's really is a universal language, mathematics.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And that's how
so
you would communicate is through that. Yeah, exactly.
yep.
So interesting stuff. And there's going to be more of this coming up on the next episode. So let's move along. So,
My
the
God.
guys, so here they brought Jonathan Dover out to the ranch so that they could have him take a look at some of the things they found with Thomas uh, and Kandus. So they brought him over here to take a look at a few things, and they went up on the mesa and they were looking at this right here. Now this I had never seen this before. They never showed us this particular rock formation before, and if you look at it in one sense, it doesn't look like much. But here you have this ring of large stone that is definitely, and it's around a central mound. Could this be natural? Yes. Is it possible that it was created by somebody? Yes. In my opinion, it looks like it's been created.
Yeah, that
And
land. Wow.
go ahead.
I was going to say the landscape looks very familiar to the landscape of Mars.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I mean, where's the rover? I mean, it does. It really does look like the landscape of Mars in a lot of ways.
Yep, I
It's
agree.
interesting. Very
Sure
interesting.
does. So as they're going up there, one of the things that I thought was really cool was that um, when they took a look at this, Jonathan had mentioned, out of respect, how you enter into a space like this walking counterclockwise. You approach it counterclockwise.
Mm.
It'd be going this way. Yeah. So that you're showing respect. If you go the other way, it's disrespectful, I guess. And that's what I love about the Native Americans, because they have these traditions and so much information lore that's passed down from generation to generation, such as star people and things like that. And I respect them to no end about all of this, this kind of stuff. It's so interesting that they have these traditions. And
And it is, it's Jeff. It's very interesting that they have in their history, um, you know, the tradition of being contacted and the star people, and the whole kind of universe is part of their history as well, which is absolutely fascinating to me. I think you're back now, Jeff.
yep.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I was just referring to the
Yes.
traditions, the respect that they have, and I think this is
Yes.
really cool. Um, Now they were showing him some of these markings, these carvings that are on this rock, and he was talking about them being probably having something to do with time periods. Let's see. Percent of older, fine. Okay, John tells him that they could have been markings of periods of time. Now he's not
Hmm.
exactly sure, and so we aren't either. But that's was his interpretation of what this could be,
Hmm.
uh, marking a particular time. Um, and then they show him this little hole in one of the rocks, this one here, that was obviously made. I don't believe this is um, a natural formation in the rock. I think this hole was created. And one thing they didn't talk about that I'm going to show is this right here. You got this hole up here on top. And you also have this, what looks to me like a circular hole or depression in the rock below it. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That looks like it's been man-made to me.
Sure. Let's say
I
that's
don't know. I
man-made.
mean, if you look at it spread out, I mean, look at, and this would, he was talking about you look through the hole and you can see the horizon, the sun rising, and very well could be. But I was wondering about this. So I thought maybe the two went hand in hand in some way, but I have really no idea of knowing.
Mm.
But anyway, I just thought that was interesting that this looks carved as well to me anyway.
Could be
What do you
a part of a ritual. Typically, those alignments, when you look through the horizon peephole, if you want to call it that,
Yep.
yep, there it is. Typically, those are aligned with specific days of the year, solstices, or whatever the alignment is. For summer, winter solstice, equinoxes. And so there's a specific alignment. There's also maybe a specific constellation or specific, star formation that would also indicate. So it's a kind of an interesting thing, that you see something like this that may be referring to constellations or some kind of celestial body.
Yep.
Whether day or night. So these
Right.
things are always and they're usually part of the ritual system of whatever peoples would have this.
Right. A lot of it had to do with harvest time and planting time
Correct.
and things of that nature, how they knew to mark the particular parts of the season for different
Sure.
things.
Yep.
And they
Absolutely.
generally would involve that or round that around to traditions and
Correct.
ceremonial time periods as well. They have a bit of a ceremony for these things
Sure.
as well. So
And so that
yeah,
bowl in
really.
front of the vision piece here could very well have been part of a ritual. You use this to kind of square up your vision of what time of the year it is, and then right there could very easily been part of a ritual where an offering would be made or something to that effect.
Right.
Or was it a part of a more complex device where it sat in there, and then you would use the alignment on the actual hole that you see, the eye hole, to align it with something a little more complicated.
Right.
So, it's definitely part of an ancient technology of some type, whether it be just the celestial alignment there with that eye hole, or is there something more to it with involving the bowl itself?
Yeah. I don't know.
And usually your historian of the tribe would know that and have knowledge of that.
Right. Right.
Yep. And he seems to have knowledge of it. So it's
Yeah.
something. But they're not going to tell you everything because some of that's very sacred, old sacred magic, old sacred ceremonies.
Yeah.
That's exclusive to the tribe
Or the Masons.
or the Masons or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it exclusive. But yeah,
The
any
crew. You're
organization.
exactly right. Yep.
You're
Yep.
not going to give away your secrets, any organization like that. But
No.
it's kind of interesting, and that looks very much like Stonehenge in a lot of ways. I mean,
It does, and this is the part that really blew me
That's
away when they
impressive.
show this overhead drone
Wow.
of it, and you're looking at the spiral. I mean, it does make a spiral. Here's the outer leg, and it comes around, and it's making a spiral to the inner circle.
The other
This
thing
is
it
how you,
reminds me.
huh?
Well, I didn't. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, and here it is. They kind of drew a line on it a little bit.
That's the Fibonacci sequence. Mathematically, that would be the Fibonacci sequence.
Which
spiraling out. It's 1 + 1 = 2 plus, and you keep going out and you keep doubling your fat, in the Fibonacci sequence. So that is that, or portal. Someone said portal, but it's kind of interesting. Now I'm correlating the Fibonacci sequence with a drawing of a portal. Very interesting.
It is. It might have to be something we delve into a little deeper at some time because you're right. That's very interesting.
But the Fibonacci sequence, I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. I'm going to send it to you, Jeff, right now. Maybe we can bring
please.
it up. It's a sequence of numbers, and it starts with 1 + 1 = 2, and then 1 + 2 = 3, and then 2 + 3 = 5. So you take the preceding number and you add it to the current number. So I'm going to send that to you right now so you get a gist of it. But that is very reminiscent of mathematics that is already in use. And there you go. You can see it. And I'll send you the Fibonacci sequence, which goes along with this as well. So if you look at that, Jeff, and I have the Fibonacci
I have
sequence.
to find it and bring it up here.
Yep. But it's math that we're already using, we're already aware of. And now that I think about that spiral, it's very closely resembles the Fibonacci sequence. You see the swirl as it goes out, and it keeps going out and out and out, and and it finally becomes kind of that spiral that we're seeing. And if you look at the other, the series of numbers, it's very, very similar. I think I also sent you the series of numbers, which is very similar to what we're seeing, with the Fibonacci sequence. Now that's already in mathematics. We already know about the Fibonacci sequence, but like I said, universal language is math. So it's interesting. And this is how the Fibonacci sequence works. You take the number prior and add it to the current number, and you get a value, and then you take the number prior and add it to the new value, and you get a new value, and it goes on, and it creates this kind of spiral like what we're seeing.
Right.
It's in nature. The Fibonacci sequence is found all through nature.
Oh, yeah, there's shells. I mean,
the shells and art, you name it, the Fibonacci sequence is in there. And so why are they reproducing the spiral, which is very, very similar to, I'll try to get a better picture of it, but it's
that's fantastic.
So
I had not put that together.
I hadn't put it together when I said, but the one you just showed that looked like the Stonehenge, and it looked to me very, very reminiscent of the Fibonacci sequence. And Amy sent me something here, just to me, I guess, but the Fibonacci sequence is also found in our DNA, according to Amy Mulligan.
Yep.
So, and that looks to me very similar to the Fibonacci. You see how it's really tight, and then it starts to spiral out because exponentially your numbers are getting so much bigger.
Right.
It's always
really cool.
The Fibonacci
now, if that's the case, and if this was some sort of a portal, then those numbers must, then if that is true, then those numbers must mean some sort of sequence to open this portal.
Yes. It would have to, and it would have to deal with frequency, vibration, energy. All Tesla's, those are the three things Tesla always said were kind of the core of the universe. All things have those, and the Fibonacci sequence. Now, how? And I just don't know enough about it, but how does the Fibonacci sequence? How could it possibly help open a portal? Are those tones?
The
mathematics. But it's not only mathematics, it would have to be vibration, frequency, and energy. Somehow those three combined with the Fibonacci sequence to maybe open a portal. I don't see how you're getting around that possibility.
The mathematics. It has to be the mathematics.
It has to be the mathematics. And I said this, maybe about 20 minutes ago. If I'm speaking a universal language, it's going to be the language of math. Yep. Because the entire universe is made of math. Really, if you think about it, it's all permutations and combinations of algorithms. Yep. Patterns. How do you get away from patterns? And that to me is very, very similar to patterns that we've seen in nature over and over and over again. Jeff, how do you get around that? I mean, do you get around that?
You don't. And you're exactly right. I mean, we've talked about those similar stuff on this before, but if you're going to find a way to communicate and you're going to send some sort of a message, or you're going to base it. Amy said something about it being in the DNA. Why not use the DNA? Because the DNA is a pattern that you're going to be able to find. At some point, you're going to be able to discover DNA and know what the pattern is. So you add that up with the universal language of mathematics, and then this Fibonacci sequence. It kind of ties together in my mind. I mean, it's almost telling you, here's the answer. You guys just need to figure out how to open the combination.
That's exactly what it's saying. It's it's not meant to be difficult, or it's just meant to be critically thought about. There's
Okay, we
nothing.
need to get a mathematics somebody that's like the mathematicians, these guys that can look at sequence of numbers and just pull out stuff out of it. I mean, I can't
Yes.
believe they haven't already tried this. I mean, somebody's already worked on this. I mean,
Well,
it makes sense to me.
Stephanie Peterson does a lot with Jake Roberts, right? So I'm going to contact her because she does a lot with music and tones and
Again,
mathematical sequences. I'm
yep,
going to reach out to her just to see if she has, maybe a spin on this or some insight into this,
yeah,
because
please,
it's a combination of math and frequency, which is
yep,
music, really. Maybe she has some insight into this, but it's mathematically based.
yep.
And,
All right, this
so
is cool.
you
We've got
you
something to
you
work on now.
yeah, absolutely. You solve it mathematically, and you have the language, and you understand. It's just like coding. It's like any other form of code. You understand the language, you can speak it. Now, if I'm a higher intelligent being that's light years beyond where we are, I'm speaking in the language of math, because every sentient being should be able to speak that language.
Yep, exactly.
So
At some point, they're going to gain enough knowledge to be able to speak that language. Yep.
let me ask you this: why what on earth is the Fibonacci sequence in a embedded in a, what's it doing in a petroglyph, and what's it doing in a ground anomaly that reminiscent of Stonehenge?
If someone told them to write it down, if someone gave them that information and told them, here's what we want you to document for future generations to figure out. If you saw it somewhere, you're going to draw it somewhere, you're going to record it somewhere. We just talked about that.
Yes,
If you see the aliens or whatever it may be, you see them and then you think, okay,
yes,
I'm gonna
yes,
record it
yes.
somewhere.
Even if you don't understand it at the point, you
Yes.
document it for someone else to solve in the future.
Right.
It's a lot like Bakesonian code to me. It's
Yep.
going to be embedded. So future historians, future persons that have the knowledge to decode it. It's a
Yep.
lot. It's the same. It's the same methodology.
Yep.
So you encode it, and you're hoping that, hey, maybe I don't understand it, but I have the forethought enough to record it, and so maybe someone thousands of years from now will be able to decode it, which is kind of a genius way of doing it, because you're really kicking the can down the road, so to speak.
Right. Because and like Amy said, you don't just want just anybody opening the portal. You want somebody that actually knows what the heck they're doing to open the portal.
Which has been my argument with when I going back with Jake and I on Bakesonian Code. And I know we're not talking about that, but you need someone that has the kind of forethought and the capacity to understand it, and you're hoping that that same person with the capacity to understand it also has some sort of moral compass, is going to do the right thing. So you need someone that's can critically think through this. So it's almost like this whole thing is a test to see if you pass it, then you actually get, then there's more.
Yep.
But you have to pass the original initiation test. Look at, oh no, Jake, he's listening. But Jake, it's the same methodology, my friend. It's just if you can't solve it, or you don't understand it, or you want to record it, you throw it into the future. You kick the can into the future until someone does come along and understands it and can decode it. And once you figure that out, you're gold, no matter who's encoding and decoding. I mean, and think about it. Math is a way of coding. It just is. Most computer languages are coding. It's math.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you really can't get around. It's kind of genius, just like the Templars. We're back to the Templars. It comes full circle, but it's the same thing. You kick it down. You kick it down the road. You kick the can down the road, and eventually someone's going to come around that has the capacity to understand it, and then educate everyone else. Because once one person understands it, if you scaffold it correctly and you chunk it down, chunk it up, everyone can do it. It's once you have the I'm thinking the 1950s secret decoder ring or whatever it is that you send away in the comic book, you can decode anything. All one person just has to break through, and then everyone else benefits from it.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly right.
And
Yep.
so yeah, this is going to be the crux of solving Skinwalker. Will be the language of math.
I
One
think you're
hundred
right.
percent.
Yep, and I think they're
Anyway,
getting closer to that by this. I know, we kind of went down, but that's okay. That's
but
okay.
no,
That's
no,
kind of
no. But it's important.
it is, and that's why it's okay to talk about that and speculate on this stuff a little bit because
Sure.
I think you're right. I think that mathematics is going to be the way to solve this, and that could very well those spirals. If that is a portal, it might be giving you the sequence in the numbers there somewhere how to open the portal. Is it a frequency? Is it a tone? Is it what is it that's good? So anyway,
What
we'll see.
what Jeff, it's probably going to be like any other code, the meta codes. It's going to be doing 2 or 3 or 4 things at once simultaneously. That does it.
Yes,
It's
right,
just not one thing that's too simplistic.
right,
It's
right.
when you have multiple things happening at once, and the combination to the universe just is hit. Click,
And
click,
then you
click.
get
The
that.
numbers
Then you
open it
get
up.
that Stargate. Like the Stargate opening, the backwards
Open it,
flushing.
and and then
There
you
it is.
wonder
The portal is
what you
now
just
open.
did. Yeah.
Who's going in?
Hey, Jeff, you just and then you wonder what the hell did I do? Well, you
Yeah.
just
What did
opened
I
the
just do?
portal. Yeah. Oh my God. But it's
Yeah.
going to be something like that, Jeff. I mean,
Mm,
and
I know.
whatever's doing this, whom or what, is just waiting for us to catch up. If there are actual, this is a big if, and this is a rabbit hole, but if there are actually beings using this technology already, they're just waiting. They're not going to give it to us. They're not going to. They're not going to. We have to ascend ourselves. We have to
Right.
meet the need of the day and ascend into the future. And if we don't do that, then to be frank with you, we don't deserve the technology.
Exactly. I agree with you.
We're not wise enough to use it at that point.
Right. Yep. It's like giving a little kid a weapon that he doesn't understand. He's going to hurt himself
He's going to hurt himself and others.
and others. Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah, good point.
Anyway.
Yeah. So let's keep moving on here. So,
Yes,
but
sir.
yeah,
Yes,
this
sir.
good stuff. I mean, it really is. And that's why I kind of, and then we got all of our folks in the chat are jumping in and adding to it as well. And it
Absolutely.
gives us an opportunity to really dive down that rabbit hole and talk about that a little bit. So anyway, so
Absolutely.
here is the pattern. This is the pattern that was recorded by Kendra's onboard GPS tracker. She collected this was actually the data that was collected by the plane. One of them, I guess, and this was one that was working correctly, and you can see the pattern. They were doing that flight pattern back and forth, and it worked very, very well. This is what they were
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
achieve at different levels. Here's a look at it at the different levels, going up in altitude, and doing all that, or going down. And here is another one that was recorded. And Eric pulls up the data and shows the team the data that's what it should. Oh, that's what it should look like. But the data received from Kendra shows that the plane making a loop over the triangle, and it shows them flying 62.5 miles below sea level.
That's impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And then Travis, and this
What was the point Travis made there?
2.5 miles. I'm breaking up.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're breaking. Can you repeat the point that Travis made, Jeff?
Yeah, Travis tells the group that 62.5 miles above sea level is considered the von Karman line, where you go from atmosphere to space. That's the line. When you cross that line, you left the atmosphere and you have now entered space above the earth. 62.5 miles. Why? What is that a coincidence that it was showing 62.5 miles below sea level that the plane was at?
No.
What and Travis asked the question, what is that 62.5 miles below sea level? What is that? We know that 62.5 miles above.
Jeff, I don't even think the oceans go 62.5 miles deep. In fact, I know they don't. That's very deep. There would be nothing. They don't go that deep. So why are they registering that deep? I don't know. The oceans aren't that deep. So again, Jeff, we're kind of stuck with why that 62.5 miles. That doesn't make any sense. And so you really have to wonder, because the oceans don't run that deep. I mean,
No,
I'm gonna look it up right now, but I think it's a San Andreas Trench, maybe. Hold on.
I don't know. Is that
Um,
62.5 miles below sea?
no, I think it's a mile and a half
Yeah.
down at most. So let me look it up.
Is the
Um,
core of the Earth at 62.5 miles below sea level? I don't know. But that's an interesting thing. That would be that. And I love that he asked that question. Travis did. He goes, "What is down there at 62 sea level?"
well, we have the Mariana Trench, which is in the Pacific Ocean, and that's 200 kilometers in length. Let's see how I'll look it up how far, but nothing goes that deep, Jeff. It's
No.
just nothing. So that's wrong, and that is at its peak. Its underwater is more than 1.2 miles, which is considered deep. So 62 and a half miles, there's nothing that deep. So, the core of the earth, I would imagine, is deeper. I can see how many miles it is to that, but, that doesn't make any sense. But in the context of, where we break away from our atmosphere, where you don't have oxygen anymore, where there's no gravitational pull to keep the atmosphere there. And that's really what you're talking about. 62.5 miles is where we depart from the gravity that's good. And we can still do an orbit, but the gravity that would keep us here,
Right.
unless you're re-entering the atmosphere or exiting the
Is
atmosphere.
somebody trying to tell us something that 62.5 miles below the sea level is something that needs to be looked at? I don't know. Interesting.
But Jeff, someone is telling you something. To use that exact value, again, it's the value of math, but to use the exact value of
I
62 and a
know.
half miles, and it doesn't refer to the ocean. It
Right.
doesn't refer to the core of the Earth, because I just
Right.
looked at that. It refers exactly to the altitude you would need to break free of the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
Of all values to use, that's just a very interesting value.
Exactly. Which is why Travis made so much a big deal about it because
Well,
he
he
knew that.
knew.
Yeah, being an astrophysicist, he knew that. He knew that that was the level
He
you go to space. So, what is 62.5 miles below the sea level?
he
What is
knew
it?
it like Jake Roberts knows that 33 equals Francis Bacon, or 100 equals Francis Bacon. He knows that. It's like secondhand. It's like a person that speaks fluent French knows French. He knew the minute he hit 62 and a half that was the breakaway point from the atmosphere of the Earth. And
Yep.
and if it's your niche and it's your field, and a number like that comes up that's significant in your field, you're going to stop and take pause. And my next question is: was that targeted? That specific number targeted to Travis?
Yep.
Where did they go? Okay, let's whoever's sending that message.
Yeah.
We
Who's
know
going
he's
to
an
know this?
he's an astrophysicist. So guess what? We're going to go ahead and shoot out the number 62 and a half and see what happens.
Yeah. Nobody else knew. Eric didn't know. I didn't know that. I
No,
had no
unless
idea.
you're vetted in it, you wouldn't know. you know,
Exactly.
uh, you know, uh, I don't know. I think I've looked at too much Bexonian code in my lifetime now. But no, these numbers are reoccurring, and so say that number came up again, 62.5 and 62.5, and it kept coming up from whatever the anomalies were in this area. You would at that point have to say, well, there's a pattern emerging, and there
Right.
has to be something to it, and it's intelligible because it's using a specific number that's repeatable.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, at that point, you would have to say something's trying to communicate with the astrophysicist,
Yep. Somebody that
because
might know what that means. So
he's
let's
the one that
watch
would
and
know.
see if that number comes up again anywhere.
If
62.5.
it, Jeff, if it comes up again, I'm just gonna laugh because it would be like a bacon nightmare almost.
Yep.
But it just keeps
Well, here's
repeating.
the let's move along. Here's that frequency that they were talking about. Whenever they keep saying 1.6 gigahertz, this is one of the ones that they were referring to, 1.6.815. That's the weird spot, and that's where they keep getting that one signal popping up and causing some issues. So, let's see
I
here.
got some good comments rolling by too. You go, biblical as above, so below. We keep seeing that 1.6 anomaly showing up, and it doesn't happen once. It happens several times. I'm going to say it's starting to be a repeatable pattern. And so if it's a repeatable pattern there, that doesn't happen by coincidence.
Right. Yep. The bacon nightmare. The wife's life.
So the guy I'm envisioning Alice Cooper's song "Welcome to My Nightmare" with Francis Bacon's portrait on Jake's wall. Too good, too good.
Yep.
But again, Jeff, I mean, now that I'm just this is how I watch the show. I look for things like using the scientific method. What are we observing?
Yep.
Exactly. The equipment going out's the same way.
Yep.
Anyway, onward.
Yeah. So anyway, they the guys at the end of the episode, they were talking about another means by which they could try to get some capture some this anomaly that's happening several thousand feet above the triangle. So they were trying to speculate what else could they do. And one of the
Yeah.
options that came up was to have the guys, the astronomers, come out and use telescopes to take a look into that area. And so what they were having them do, they brought out a few guys, and I'll run through these guys real quick here. So there you've got Chuck Hards. He was there. He's one of them from the Salt Lake Astronomical Society. And you also have David Moulton and Richard Tenney. These guys came out with their equipment. They are professional astronomers, and they came out with their professional equipment that they had, and they had some really cool stuff. And they were their idea was for them to do was to set up on the helicopter pad and to look up in the sky at an angle looking through the anomaly above about 4 to 5,000 feet above the triangle, look through it at a star or something on the other side, of course, in space, but looking through that anomaly to see if there was any kind of distortion, deviation, out of focus, something happening as they try to kick the beehive with rockets. So that's what the whole plan was, to look at a star, watch that star, they kick the beehive, see what happens, see if any weird stuff happens. Okay. So that was the idea behind bringing these guys in. It's another way of trying to see if there's some sort of a distortion there, some sort of a portal or something happening up there. So they brought these gentlemen out and they brought their sophisticated equipment. They see some of these telescopes that I wish I had. I love telescopes and I
Wow.
love stargazing. But these guys had some great stuff. That one back here that this guy's setting up with the 100-inch, it's 100 inches from the optic, from the eyepiece down to the reflective mirror. That one's really cool. I love that one. That's a nice one. Here's a much smaller one, but still a very nice one. They hooked up a camera to for much closer. Here's another one. Yeah, the Explorer. This is the one I wish I had right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's a nice one.
Well,
But anyway, they got these all set up. Go ahead.
yeah, the smaller telescopes usually referred to as a spotter's telescope. You would
Yes.
get, and it's usually mounted on the bigger telescope, and you would use that to figure out the degrees that you were looking at, and then adjust the larger equipment to where it is.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
yep.
when I'm out on the road, I've got a telescope. I plan on buying a better
Do
one,
you?
but when I
Do
go out
you?
on the road, I'm going to be in some desert areas like in Utah when I'm out there, and you can bet your bippy I'm going to be checking out the stars and stuff while I'm out there. I love that. There's a good close range, binoculars basically to look at the same area through, get a closer view of it. So, and
Yes.
here's that anomaly that's above the triangle. Here's where they have speculated there's something up there right above. Here's the triangle down below. And
Hmm.
this is that area where they figure there's something up there that is causing this weird interference.
Wow.
And what is it? And this is where they think that um, the signal is coming from also. And they said that's the other thing about the 1.6 gigahertz signal that they find.
Yes. Yes.
It moves. Thomas Winterton was talking about this because somebody had challenged him on it and said, "Hey, it's there's other things that use that." And he said, "Well, I don't have. That's not specific. We're being general when we say 1.6." But he said it moves, it changes. They track it when it's up. They move their antenna around and find that it actually changes position. That's not going to happen with a normal transmitter base someplace. It's not going to change positions.
Hmm.
This is one of the UAPs that they found that happened. I think this one was last year when they were firing rockets or something was happening, and I grabbed a picture of it. So Caleb and as they were getting ready for all this, and the guys were setting up their telescopes, Caleb and Thomas were putting up some new camera equipment that Eric had, and they were getting it mounted up there. One allows them to look at a panorama view of the entire skyline from horizon to horizon. Uh,
And do we have Jeff? Is he gone? Let me go ahead and see if we can get Jeff back here.
there we go.
Is it working? Hey, he's back. It worked. I knew it would work, Jeff. I knew it would work.
I'm back.
Excellent.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Gone again.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it works every time, Jeff.
It brings me back. I'm glad you're doing that.
yeah, it works.
I don't know where what was the last thing you heard, but anyway, they're setting up.
Well, you were telling us what the function of the device was, and then the you got hit with a 1.6 gigahertz interference.
Yep, the 1.6 gigahertz got me.
J-free 1.6.
Yep. Okay, so they brought out all these different telescopes and everything.
Back up. What does this thing do, Jeff?
They have a couple of different ones. The sky facing camera is a fisheye lens. It allows them to see from horizon to horizon.
Okay.
And straight up. The new camera is a directable a telescopic camera that they can identify, track, and follow objects with, which is really cool.
That is neat.
Christian Roper just sent me a message. Christian, well, I'll talk about that in just a minute. Christian Roper and I were talking about some stuff. And he said he may tune in tonight for a minute because he's going to be out at Skinwalker Ranch.
He's going to be at Skinwalker or the ranch next to Skinwalker.
The ranch next door to
Skinwalker.
Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to be there. He's going out Sunday. They're going out with a team, and they're going to be doing some investigations out there.
Oh, he's going to see something. There's no doubt.
Yeah. We'll bring him on here in a minute.
Oh, awesome.
I'll send him the link here in a minute. We'll have him come on. So the team, let's see, bit of the fisheye camera and allows them to track objects. The new camera is set up and running properly. The team hopes to record footage of any UAP that appear and pinpoint the exact spot to where the UAP is coming from. The rockets are being used tonight. They have a blinking red LED lights, and they help the team and astronomers to track them. So that's the idea behind it. They want to kick the hornet's nest while the guys are watching through the area of the above the triangle, so they can see any distortions or anything like that with the stars on the other side. Here's a closer view of it. This is the camera. This looks straight up and horizon to horizon, and this is the one that they can actually use to track objects that they might see. This is that's a very expensive camera right there. Really cool one.
That's some nice equipment for sure.
And and there's Bryant and Travis setting up one of the rockets that they're going to be shooting with the LED lights that are attached to it, which was really cool, by the way, when they shot them up. And they're going to be shooting these up right there from the triangle and launching them from right there. And next we got Jim Morris. Now we finally get to see Jim back on the scene. Now Jim Morris is working with Tom and Kandus, and in reaching out to the locals in the area and getting stories from them and experiences that they've had. So that's really cool. And again, I go back to that saying how cool this is for them to be doing that. I really think it's an awesome thing, and it means that they want to gather as much information as they can. They brought out Miss Diaz here, Adelita. Yep. And she is a resident. Matter of fact, I think I asked Christian Roper this. I said, "Are you going to her property? Because she lives right next door to Skinwalker Ranch." But apparently not. I don't know that. That's not where they're going. Obviously, there's other ones and right there bordering Skinwalker Ranch. But anyway, so she came out and she was sharing some of her information things she talked about a light anomaly, a ball of light that she saw
Sure.
just the other day when from the show. She was carrying groceries in from the car, and they noticed this anomaly. It was a ball of light. It was moving across the sky, and then it was changing directions and moving back. Again, the guys have seen this. The team has seen this very same thing. So they are not the only ones that are picking this stuff up. Many people in the area are seeing it. Addie tells them that this is not the first time that she has seen this. She then tells them that her grandfather would see them and that things would happen around the farm when these appeared. She says that one night he was out on a four-wheeler and he noticed the kids were looking at the sky, and there was a ball very close to the ground that rose up and disappeared. Then she tells them her grandfather has seen what he thought was a skinwalker. So her grandfather was out in the field cutting hay, and he noticed a tall, dark figure watching him and getting closer. Every time her grandfather went around the field, he was getting closer. Her grandfather told her that it looked like he was wearing a long cloak. And as he continued cutting hay, it vanished.
Hmm.
So he is some being a skinwalker because he wasn't sure exactly what it was. So I guess the point of this is that there are other people besides those on the island, those on the ranch that are seeing things like this. And that's why it's so important to gather. It's all data. That's what Junior Hicks was doing years ago when he was going out and talking to residents that had seen, and he cataloged all of this. You saw that in season 2.
Yeah.
They talked to his son, and he was gathering information from all of these people around the area that have had experiences. That's what you do when you're researching it, right? You go out and talk to these people. So I think it's high time that they were doing this, and Jim Morris being involved in it. I think it's a great thing. And Kandus and Tom also heading that team up to go out and talk to people. And I think it's great. It's what they need to do. Absolutely. And we're going to hear more stories. And again, this goes back to Ryan's book that I was talking about earlier. And I think his wife helped co-write it. So I've got to get her name as well, but I'll do that before the end here. So here they are. As soon as they get ready to, finally it's dark. They got the rockets ready to go, and we have equipment failures. And it was really interesting that this guy right here, this gentleman here, is looking up at Chuck, and he is saying that as soon he had lined up his telescope with a certain um, star that was going to be looking through the anomaly in the triangle, and then now it's gone. Now it's gone from his database. It's no longer in the database of the controller to tell it how to line up to that star. It's gone. And then they're all having failure, camera failures, all in different stars and different objects that they were going to lock onto looking through this anomaly. They all started dropping off. Again, we go back to that same thing we talked about before,
Yeah,
John,
sure.
where
Sure.
it's not just one thing goes wrong, multiple things go wrong over and
Well,
over and over again.
Chef, how do you lose stars in an algorithm that's already been pre-generated? Because those algorithms within that program, you know where the stars are going to be. Any star in the constellations at any point, during the year. All you do is put in the coordinates, and it moves, and they have telescopes that do that. So how does the software lose almost on command where stars are located? That just doesn't. It just seems something's not right.
Right.
Something's not right.
Exactly.
I'm just and during or right before they're just about to launch something, to see if there's something there. I mean, it's again another equipment failure. It's just as if something doesn't want them to see what's there, actually there.
Mhm. Yeah,
That makes
I
no
don't know.
sense.
And well, it's like and they said they were not connected to the cloud. They weren't connected to the internet in any way. So it wasn't like somebody got in and hacked it. It was on the device that they're using. The information is preloaded into the device.
Sure.
So it's already in the memory of the device, and it was simply it was a catalog of different stars and where their orientation is.
Sure.
Once you set up the telescope, then you can automatically tell the equilateral mount to go to that star. It knows once you set it up, it knows where to go to find that star.
But Jeff, at that point, there's no Bluetooth, there's no Wi-Fi. I mean, I guess telescopes do have that, but this is isolated. It's already pre-programmed. It's
Yep.
insular. Nothing
Yep.
can get to that algorithm and those program. The programming of that, and then suddenly that disappears.
Yeah, exactly.
How can it disappear if there's no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to infiltrate the programming of said telescope? It can't. So again, the sophistication to do that, if it's being done by an outside force, it's unbelievable. I mean, that's when something can actually go into a isolated telescope and make those changes. I mean, if that's what we're suggesting. I'm not suggesting that.
I mean, that's what they were suggesting on the show.
That's what they were suggesting in the show. Now, impossible. The technology as we know it here does not exist.
Right.
As we know it as human beings, if the device is insular, and
Right.
there's nothing and it's an algorithm, it's and a lot of these telescopes are pre-programmed. You put in, the time of the year, the constellation you want to see, and the telescope knows exactly what I would imagine it's something like that.
Right.
It's not hooked up to Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, and you think about an EM pulse. You can hit it with an EM pulse, but it's going to wipe out everything. And they were saying that the only things that were gone were the objects that were being looked at through the anomaly.
It doesn't make
Anything
sense.
else they wanted to lock onto was still there in the database.
Was still there.
Just the items that were on the opposite side of the anomaly were gone now. That just doesn't.
No, an electromagnetic pulse of that magnitude would wipe out the entire thing.
Right. Everything would be gone.
It would be everything. I mean,
everybody's equipment would be down.
a good EM pulse could cripple the United States and other countries because it would just wipe. It would. I mean, they've talked about this as like a doomsday scenario.
Right.
A strong enough EM pulse would do that, but to wipe out just specific data points. No technology that I'm aware of, Jeff, and maybe the viewers are aware of something I'm not, exists to do that at this point.
Right.
So unexplainable.
Craziness. Yeah.
Crazy.
One of the other things, because they couldn't get to all of this, they decided to use a laser beam pointer to shoot up into the sky. And this was also really finding some weird things. It was really hard to see it on TV, but you could tell that they were seeing it on the ground, where the laser pointer was shooting up there. And this is a military grade laser pointer, not just a kid's one that you would get out of a cereal box or whatever, but not that would be where you find it. But anyway, so they're shining this thing up there and it's changing its length.
And you're right, Jeff. There were certain times where you take the laser pointer and it would be shorter or longer depending on what it was hitting.
Right.
Now, we don't see anything there that's hitting. But is there something there it's hitting? It would seem to be there is something there that's cloaked or something that we don't see that's hitting. Right. Otherwise, you can't explain the varying lengths of the laser.
Right.
Now that's a military grade laser too. They said it was a military grade laser. So explain that. I don't think we can.
Yeah. Here's one of the pictures where you show it's bent. So it's bending it. And I grabbed this one.
Yeah, Jeff. As far as I know, can without mirrors or something that's reflecting off, does light bend? I don't think light bends. In fact, I know it doesn't. I'm being facetious here, but light doesn't bend. So what's bending that light? I guess under certain circumstances, Jeff, light bends, but you have to meet those circumstances. You're back, Jeff. But what bends light? I mean, light is bent around a black hole, because of the force of the thing. A portal, which is a type of black hole, I guess. Well, not
it's kind of a wormhole.
It's similar to a wormhole, but that would be the only thing that could bend light like that, because you're talking about a dimensional disruption,
right?
given the laws of physics, that light should not be bent.
Right. Here's a good one right here. Reflection is the light being bent.
Yes, a
If it's
reflection.
reflecting off something. A prism.
Yes,
Yep. A
a
couple people
prism.
said prism.
Yep,
Water.
water. Mm-hmm.
So there are some different things that could do that. But yeah, it definitely bent as it was. We just saw, like I said, you can see the tip of it bent here. Obviously, they were seeing much better than we could. But
I guess but there's no clouds in the sky. I mean, there could be water molecules that are unbeknownst. I mean, I don't. I mean, that would be a long shot, but I guess plausible.
true. Yeah, it's possible because of the night sky, and we know that dew collects on the ground on a clear
Yes,
night.
could be very human, and but
Right.
it's highly unlikely. What are the
Yeah. And
chances
at
of
one
that?
point, it even split. So here it is split.
That's the one that I couldn't explain away last night when I was watching that. How do you split? I'm sure people have ideas, but okay, then what's there to split it? If a prism can
Right.
split, which I agree, it can split light, then it's got to be bouncing off or going through or being refracted by some
By
sort of
something.
technology. Now,
Yep.
military has cloaking technology. We've seen it. It's pretty decent, So it's something that's bending light. Now, cloaking technology, Jeff, bends light.
Yes.
We know
Yes, it
this.
does. That's how it
I've
works.
seen the videos
Yep.
of the military grade, cloaking devices which bend light around the object, which would explain why the laser bent around the object because it was some sort of cloaking technology. Now,
Yep.
I'm not saying it's otherworldly cloaking technology because the military has
Yeah.
such
Yeah. Yeah.
technology already.
Yep.
We know it. I mean, you can see it. You can just pull it up on YouTube.
Yep.
You can invisible cloaking technology. A lot of planes have it. A lot of and you can shield something by bending light around it, and you can't even tell it's there
Right.
unless you're almost up on top of it. So yeah, that's just how cloaking technology works. You bend light around, and if you're very sophisticated about it, you make it so you're almost undetectable. What better place to bend light around you than space? Because
Yes.
the spectrum of the eye, and the range of the eye wouldn't see the difference because it was so
Correct.
far away.
Right.
About 5,000 feet would do it for sure.
Uh-huh.
You couldn't tell at 5,000 feet if light was being bent or not.
No. No.
With a
No.
laser, you could.
Yeah.
With it split, you could because that could be easily split off a wing or something
Right.
that's there,
Yep.
and your cloaking technology would split the light. I
Right.
mean, yes. Yes, Jeff? No, Jeff?
I agree, and I'm thinking if it's cloaking, then it's the chances, unless they're really fast, the chances
Yeah.
of running into it with an airplane or a helicopter or something like that is greater. But you remember when they were up there throwing out those bottles that
Yes.
had the stuff in it, and they were throwing those out of the helicopter, and there was a couple of them. It looked like it went down and boom and bounced off us.
It did. Yep, it looked like it bounced off, and I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but at one point they fired something or it bounced off and made that 9-degree angle.
Yeah, like it
Yeah,
bounced off of something
like
on
it
the way
bounced off
down.
of something. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not possible.
So
So
there, and now that's what I was talking about. If something's being cloaked, it's still there. It's still physically there. Something could bang into it, bounce into it, fly into it, unless they can maneuver out of the way. But or if it's some sort of a magnetic field that they
yes,
picked up, maybe it's some sort of a portal that's creating a magnetic field. I don't know. And it deflected that bottles that they were dropping. I don't know. It's
if
interesting.
you, if you, if you, if you're whatever is manning this thing, it knows that Travis is going to shoot up a rocket. You're going to adjust a little bit because you can quickly figure out the trajectory that rocket's going to go and adjust
Yeah.
your craft accordingly. I mean, it would be a quick, if you have that technology to cloak, you have the technology to make quick adjustments in your altitude and where you are in the
Yes.
sky.
Yes. Exactly.
So to outrun like a rocket, come on now, like a mere, boosted rocket
It's
that you
pretty
can.
pretty crazy stuff. And by the way, folks, I know, and I really do apologize for the internet glitches that we're having here
No,
tonight. I have sent a link out to Christian Roper. He's going to come on here in a minute, I think, and and talk with us, but we'll hurry up and finish through this show here so
Cool.
he
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
have a
Excellent.
little bit of time with us. But yeah, he's got some interesting stuff to talk about. So, so the other thing that they were talking about their biosensors was the cattle. The
Nice.
cattle always pick up. They always seem to pick up on stuff all the time when
Yep.
there's weird things happening. And it was about this time that the cattle were all acting crazy
Mm-hmm.
that the guys spotted a actual UAP in the sky. Oops, that's not the picture I wanted. Let's see if there it is right there. Now, this was the UAP that they sent. Now, this up here, they were talking about this being Jupiter. This is Jupiter right here. And this is the UAP that was moving slowly from right to left across the field of view. It was this one right here. And it was slowly moving from right to left. Yes, animals do have instincts and they can pick up on this stuff. We saw that last year when the one cow died, and right above it was a UAP or a UFO. But so here you go. You've got this UAP. It showed up right at the end of all the stuff they were doing. All the guys saw it. All the astronomers that were there saw it. They captured it on camera, and it was about the size. Now that John and I were talking about, how far away is that? Don't know. We just simply do not know if it was
Yep.
up in orbit or if it was much lower than that, only maybe several thousand feet high. But it was moving from left to right, from right to left across the field of view, and it was moving under. They were comparing it to Jupiter, which is right here, and it
Yep.
was moving across this way underneath it. So they did pick up a UFO, and they talked about it right there on the show. It was documented, and they showed it to Brandon. Uh,
I think we've lost Jeff.
it had a dot in it.
There you go, Jeff. Can you repeat what you just said? We lost you for about 10 seconds or so.
Okay, I was just talking about the fact that they had captured it with their equipment, and everybody saw it, and it was moving across. And they also had they brought Brandon Fugel out to check it out as well. So he was looking at it as well.
Cool.
Okay, Christian's come out here. Christian, we're almost done. We're going to wrap this up, and then we'll bring you on here. We'll talk a little bit about what you've got going on. Yeah, music time. Do 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 do. So anyway, so wrapping this up, the guys, we did have a couple of pictures um, that John shared with me, and this was what they were showing Brandon at the end of the show. They were showing him that Travis was woken up in the middle of the night, or actually about 5 o'clock in the morning, a little early. He was woken up, bang on the side of his travel trailer. He woke up and immediately found out what time it was. And he came in to talk to Eric that was in the command center. Eric got woken up also in the middle of the night, and he was checking out some of the camera footage that they had, and they found an actual um, a burst of light from, I don't know. I don't know what you would what were you speculating that this was?
It's all speculation, Jeff. Maybe an engine, that we quickly call was it a portal?
Right.
I don't know. It was some sort of. Now the one on the top right is not the one that we looked at that, and we think that was
Right.
pre-existing prior. The one in the bottom left is the actual anomaly. I think I have a
Right.
close-up image of that, Jeff. If you could pull that up. Yep. And so
Yeah, it looked like it was not there, and it flared into existence, and then it was gone.
Yep. And I ran the image through a bunch of filters, cleaned it up a bit, sharpened it up. So that's what the anomaly looked like, in its full state of being, and then it just phased out. So
Yeah,
what is that?
it was gone. I don't know. It's really and I don't. This was the other one. The one that was this one. But this thing, I don't know. I mean, it was. I don't think they. Maybe we'll get more information about what this was, but it was really interesting as some sort of an orb or something. But it was gone. It wasn't there, and then boom, like something exploded, and then it was gone, just that quick. And it was definitely out in what they figured was out in pretty deep space.
But if we go to the one that's the blow up, Jeff, I mean, it's definitely some sort of energy. It's an energy vortex. It's an energy something that manifests and then is gone.
Right.
I mean, it's clearly something that's electrical energy, something
Yep.
that manifests and just disappears.
Yeah. Travis had made a comment about maybe being some sort of like the other end of a wormhole, and you see it like open up, something comes out, shoop, it's gone.
It's
Just that quick.
circular like it is, it's
Yeah.
circular like a wormhole would open up like that, and then it would close. You're almost looking at like a angleized version of it where it opens up and then closes, and that could
Right.
be very easily something could have flown through, done, gone. That was it.
Yep. So pretty interesting episodes that were on last night. I tell you what, I'm
Yep.
really excited about talking about episode number
Yeah.
5 because number 5 had some really cool stuff that was being shown about an anomaly that they actually captured that was moving along over by Homestead 2. And I can't wait to analyze that a little bit and talk about it.
Yep.
But in the meanwhile, before we get going here, Christian Roper, welcome. Thanks for
Hey.
coming by tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Love being here.
I am having a little bit of an internet. You'll see me maybe freeze and pop out for a second, but it always comes back on. But I've had that issue tonight. But I was telling people at the beginning of the show tonight that you are going to be out near Skinwalker Ranch next. I think you're going out Sunday. Tell us a little bit about what you can share with us about what's going on.
Sure. So this has been probably a year in the making. I've had a connection to a property outside of Skinwalker Ranch for quite a while now, and we finally pulled the trigger on getting something done. And in short, there was a man who had what he calls he describes it as a hitchhiker experience. If you're familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, you would recognize the hitchhiker effect as something else. But he actually did pick up a hitchhiker one day, a native man, just your stereotypical what you would think of as a skinwalker, what people describe in the legends, a man wrapped in a blanket, face covered. He thought this man needed a ride, and he lets him into his truck, and he passes out. And he has memories of his life go through his mind, and then he is awoken by Bureau of Indian Affairs officers, I think 3 to 4 hours later, many miles away, near a place called Bottle Hollow Reservoir. And
Yes.
Bottle Hollow Reservoir is very well known for strange things. Even in 2012, there was a disc that was seen by locals on the reservation. It was seen being chased by helicopters, and a disc turned on its side and entered Bottle Hollow Reservoir without making a splash. And I have connections with a few of the people involved with Skinwalker Ranch, both behind the scenes crew and people like actually involved with ongoing searches, and trying to propose the idea of why not dive Bottle Hollow Reservoir,
I know that would be
Whoa.
awesome. Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
get soil samples from 3 different locations,
Yes.
see if there is anything anomalous, because when you think about it, where has the most earth essentially been carved away? Is there some sort of top layer that could give you misleading readings? I have no clue what Bottle Hollow Reservoir would manifest in terms of electromagnetic activity, any sort of anomalies, but I'm going to throw that out there when I'm up there. But this man is found by Bureau of Indian Affairs officers to walk up to him, and they think he's drunk. His head's hanging out of the side of his truck.
Yeah.
And they do the standard DUI protocol. They realize he's not drunk at all, and they said, "What happened?" And he says, "Well, I had a man get into the car, and I don't remember what happened after."
Right.
And then their tone switches, and these BIA officers, kind of in a very privately spoken, this is very much assumed to be off the record, say to him, "Sir, we feel that you've been nabbed by a skinwalker." That was their exact quote. "We feel as if you've been nabbed by a skinwalker." And this is not uncommon at all. We actually come across this quite a bit. And he was so enamored by what happened to him, even though it was very scary, that he was compelled to buy a property very close to Skinwalker Ranch. If you can't get on the Mecca, if you can't get at the most studied paranormal hotspot in the world, then why not get right across the fence line? Because
Exactly. Yes.
who's saying that this man-made line somehow stops any sort of activity?
No, not exactly. No, not going to happen.
And he was pretty smart in doing so. He's since created his own research efforts. What not a lot of people are aware of is that there are multiple research efforts on ranches outside of Skinwalker Ranch. It is no longer exclusive, the scientific study to Skinwalker Ranch. A lot of them have different mindsets, and it's so interesting because it's kind of a multi-pronged approach. If they can all figure out ways to work together and not be very combative, which you find a lot in the world of the supernatural studies. But his mindset is that nothing on this ranch will ever be harmed. He's told security guards, do not even carry weapons. Do not even think about shooting any animal on this ranch. Do not think about shooting anything, even in defense. And so he's got a very interesting mindset when it comes to looking for activity. He's wanting it to be he's described it as a safe haven. And so we're going to spend some time with him at 2 different locations. And the kind of log line that we are going for with this documentary is the scientific study is all great. We are not debating any of the methods. We are not, finding fault with anything. We think they're doing a great job. But our log line, just to create an interesting documentary and show the flip side of everything, is what is, since NIDS has been out there, it will say, what is 20 years of scientific study compared to 1,000 years of living among the phenomenon? And so the entire point of the documentary is to get pretty much 90 to 100% the perspectives of folklore, the perspectives of tradition and legend, specifically through the Ute people and those who have not looked at it through a scientific perspective.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fantastic because, and you and I were kind of talking about that earlier today. And John and I mentioned it on the show tonight that now at least the folks on Skinwalker Ranch are now going out. Jim Morris is going out and he's talking to people local, and Kandus and Tom, they're gathering information from the locals and asking them about that. And when you mentioned about the 2 tribal officers that had picked up this gentleman and at first thought he had been drunk, but then after talking to him, they said they see this all the time. Those 2
Wow.
assuming they were men, I don't know that. But those 2 officers right there would be people that I would want to talk to because they have seen and heard many stories. I mean, that's where I think you're looking at this in a unique perspective. As you mentioned, they're looking at a scientific study of equipment that they have today and whatnot and all that, looking back over, when Bigelow was on the property and all that, owned the property and all that. You're looking at it from talking to people who have dealt with this for 1,000 years or more. And I think that's the key right there to finding out more information about it and what this really is about. I applaud you for looking at it that way. I mean, you're in for a treat. I cannot wait to hear what you've come up with while you're out there. This is
none of us
really
are scientists. We won't know how to detect any gravitational or do light bending experiments. But we can look at it through another science, which is anthropology, and show how it's impacted a culture, how this has changed people's lives. A lot of people's complete worldview when they grew up in that area is surrounded by the supernatural. People you talk to, they will give you the most insane stories and they don't think anything of it.
Exactly.
And it's kind of mind-blowing. But we want to have a moment of feel to the film where it's giving the kind of indigenous people, the people that have lived on the land, have been molded by the Uinta Basin, their moment to speak, their moment to explain. And they may say, well, we've been telling you for hundreds of years what's out here, and only recently you started to listen.
Yep.
And I hope it's a good supplement to what is going on scientifically at the ranch and what's going on at other ranches. There will definitely be cameras involved, definitely be some experimentation going on. We may approach it more like paranormal investigators. That's one side that rarely gets mentioned. Actually, we had a brief contact with I believe it was the Utah director of MUFON, and he talked about a paranormal experience on the ranch where they had a body manifest, and I think it was daytime, and he was like, half of the stories that we get from the ranch and from the area, MUFON will not take them. MUFON will not take anything that is outside the box that they want to fit all of their UFO sightings into.
Right. Yeah.
And we want everything to be outside of that box. We want it to be weird, unnerving. I've showed you some of the preview content that we've been sent that has been taken on the ranch. Some strange stuff, weird looking canine creatures, black figures in the distance, upright walking. Wow, just strange stuff.
Yeah, you're in for a treat. And I noticed you had mentioned, I don't know if you wanted to talk about this tonight real quick, but you had also mentioned about a ceremony that you can go through to where you would be more likely to have an experience. You want to talk about that at all, or?
Oh my goodness, yeah. So there are several things I can talk about. One, indigenous people are supposedly more likely to experience certain events in this area, not just because they are more in tune with the land, something like that. You can come up with whatever reason you want, but we've been told that there are certain rituals, certain upbringings that you have to have that physically enable you. It's like a switch that physically enable you to see things. And a lot of them will tell you this. So many cultures will tell you this, that there are certain rituals that you must go through to be able to see. And we've also been told that, I don't know what it is yet, but there is some song that you can supposedly play. I believe it's considered taboo, especially on the reservation, but there's a song that you can play to attract activity. And we've heard about strange stories like that, whether it's an old tale, you never know. But there are, as we've been told, a few different ways that can heighten your abilities to see certain things. And the most common way that people see things is being new to the area. So it's pretty good for us. The best way to spark activity, and I think they've talked about this on the show, but when new groups of people come in, there's a new person on the ranch, it's like the activity has to somehow manifest itself and say, hey, I'm here. There were times where the NID scientists talked about going dry in terms of anything happening, and they would bring new researchers on the ranch, and within a night or 2 nights they would have like hell break loose again.
Wow.
But I don't know, I'm just excited to hopefully have something happen. I was at the powwow for the Alabama Coushatta tribe in Texas and talking to a few people, and I was like, actually, I'm about to go up to the Ute reservation and possibly like do some things around Skinwalker Ranch. And this guy says, he just gives me sage, and he's like, you need to take this with you. And so I've got some lucky sage to bring with me.
That's cool. Yeah, I tell you, when I go out there, that's I'm looking to be out there. They're having the Phenomenon is happening on September 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I am going out there for that. And it's right there in Vernal, Utah, which is very close to Skinwalker Ranch and where you're going to be. And I was looking for campgrounds so I could stay at a campground out there. And that happens to be It was a Bottle Hollow. Is that's the name of it? That's where one of the campgrounds is. Right there at the lake. So I'm our reservoir. And I'm like, that's where I'm gonna be staying, or I'm gonna try to stay there. I'm gonna get reservations for it. I haven't got them yet, but that's where I want to stay. And hopefully you can give me some contacts of people you spoke to there. I would like to also meet some of these people, and I'll have all my camera equipment with me and night vision camera, or, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be looking to see what I see when I'm there too. Because I want to do a little bit of my own research. Now I'll be by myself. I won't be with a team. So, it might be a bit frightening, but I have that same attitude about it that you do, as far as, or the owner of that property, whereas this is not anything to be harmed. And somebody mentioned it in the chat as well, to say that they may not be there to be harming you in any way. We just don't know. So don't go there with an aggressive posture on this. Go at this with an open mind, and hopefully you have an experience and you can document something. So I'm really hoping that happens. I'm really looking forward to this trip. I'm really looking forward to your trip out there, and I want to hear all about it. I know you guys are putting together a documentary. I have watched, and I was going to say too that is this the same team of? I'm at a complete loss for the name of their group. They have a YouTube channel. Is this the same team that you did the Dogman stuff with?
Yeah, much higher budget this time.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Much higher budget this time.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was still pretty cool. I was going to look, because I was trying to remember their channel. What was it? I've forgotten the name of their channel now. You're going to have to help me.
Probably Legion of Legends.
Well, that's one of them. There was another one that the guy had.
Confessionals?
Confessionals, that's it. The Confessionals. So if you go out to YouTube and you look for the Confessionals, you'll see some of the information in the documentary that Christian was also involved in. That was in Kentucky, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kentucky. Weirdest experience of my life, probably.
Wow.
Not even the werewolf stuff, just being in Kentucky.
Yeah. But yeah, so check that out if you get a chance. The Confessionals, it's a YouTube channel out there. And but anyway, so if you're going to be with that same team, I just know you're going to have a great time, and you're going to be able to capture something really neat. Do you have anything else you want to share real quick before we call it up?
I want to get your opinion on. So, I know this is a very deep question, but so when all of this stuff manifests itself at Skinwalker Ranch or in the Uinta Basin, you've got several different things here. It's like everyone is arguing for their own side. Is this extraterrestrial? Is this
okay, I froze there for a second. I'm sorry. You're going to have to repeat that. I was out of the I lost my connection for a second.
So a lot of people will pick a tribe and think everything fits inside that box for all of the activity on Skinwalker Ranch. Either this is all demonic, this is all extraterrestrial, this is something else. One thing that we've been looking into outside of Utah, a lot of the documentary was actually interviews done in Mexico with eyewitnesses of shapeshifters there, which go back thousands of years, called nahuales, which are the exact same concept of shapeshifters as skinwalkers.
Right.
But as skinwalkers are typically more akin to wolves, the nahuales were more likely associated with jaguars. And in Mexico, they even have beliefs for that's why you find mutilated animals. It has something to do with the transformation process and needing some sort of replacement organ of some sort, replacement blood. So every transformation, you just find discarded body parts left behind. In Mexico, there's a very deep belief that if a bruja, if a witch, if this nahual were to take out their eyes, they then transform into a ball of light, which is exactly what you also find with what's called fifole. But it's a very common phenomenon, this idea of shapeshifters being associated with both balls of light and UFOs. I was wondering your opinion on, is this the same thing? For example, if UFOs hypothetically were extraterrestrial, would a skinwalker, the shapeshifter, be a manifestation of how they interpret life on Earth, and they're able to transform it? So is the skinwalker under this extraterrestrial thing, or is this area somehow different where all these unrelated things can somehow independently come through? Those are the two kind of theories that we're looking at. Either they're related, or there's something about this area where everything independently comes through and manifests on its own. And I was wondering what your opinions were for the folklore side, the UFO side, poltergeist side. Is this all related, or what are we looking at here? Is this portal where everything equally manifests?
I'm going to jump in on that first, and John, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on it as well.
Good.
Personally, I believe that, like you do, in a lot of respect, that talking to the indigenous peoples that have dealt with this for thousands of years are the ones you need to talk to, and I believe in their legends and their folklore passed down over generations. I do think that there very well could be a connection with all of this. Now, as far as UFOs found in the sky, that I think is its own anomaly in itself. But I think that when you take uh, orbs or whatever, something on the ground, a light anomaly that's on the ground, and you talk portals, you talk skinwalkers, or you talk shapeshifters, I think those are tied together in their own realm. And as Jonathan Dover was speaking on the show, he was talking about the different dimensions and how they are interweaved with one another. And I think that, and I've talked about this in the paranormal shows about the fact that you have these different dimensions that are interweaved and they're at certain points, maybe certain places under certain conditions in that same place. There will be an opening for things to move in and out of that. And there may be people that know how to manipulate that and open it on their own, on demand. And I think that has all ties together with the skinwalkers and or shapeshifters, or orbs that we see, light anomalies where it looks like, if you've seen the movie Predator, where the guy would cloak and you could see that shimmering image walking
Yes.
along. All those types of things together, I think, are or very well could be tied together. And who would better know about all of these things than the indigenous peoples, the Native Americans, or the native First Nations people up in Canada, or the folks down in Mexico? I think they become, in the way they pass on this information over years and years and years, they would be the ones to talk to. They would have more information and data to collect about all of this. And I think they look at it very spiritually, which I think is also a good point. But I think that UFOs that like our Navy's tracking and things like that, I think that's a separate thing, in my opinion. Are they coming to and from on through portals rather than trying to get through space on a high, at warp speed or whatever to travel across space? I think they're utilizing portals or some sort of a wormhole type of thing to travel. But I think that's a separate thing from the skinwalkers, shapeshifters, and portals on Earth where people can go between dimensions. Does that answer your
Cool.
question? But I think that it's
Yeah.
something.
I think he's gone. I think he went into a dimension. Well, I'll pick up unless we have Jeff back. But there are places on the Earth that are still points. Jeff, you want to finish up real quick?
I was just saying that's why I'm talking of tribes up in this area, and I'm going to be going through many of them down through Wisconsin and then also in Michigan and traveling across to the West. I want to meet with these different peoples and gather the information and stories. So that's where I'm headed.
You would have to start with just gathering the stories, gathering information, gathering first-hand accounts, observational accounts, and then you would look for the repeatable patterns. It's classic scientific method. And then when you see repeatable patterns, then you have to investigate the actual anomalies that are being repeated and ask yourself what the origins of those phenomena are. A still point where, maybe several things collide, such as time. There's no time in the still point. There's no, there's many realities. We know in quantum physics that until you make a decision, that all dimensions, all realities exist until a decision or attention is paid to a specific timeline, and then all others collapse. That's how quantum physics says it works. So, could there be a place where all these things exist at the same time? Yeah, they're very well. I mean, Native Americans, it's not foreign to their, shamanic rituals and, things that they do in meditation and things that have been handed down within, tribal customs, and those are very sacred secrets to them. They're just not going to give that to just anyone. The shamans or the shamans of the tribes, the medicine people of the tribes hold those truths very close to the vest. If anything otherworldly is visiting, well, not only would they want to visit us, but they would also, I think, want to see the anomaly of a Skinwalker. What is this creature that lives amongst the humans? What is its, purpose? What is it doing? Because I would imagine that now, if there's something otherworldly, that they would have not only a knowledge of us, but they would have knowledge of that, that creature, however it manifests and whatever it is. So to them, it would be a curiosity to see how we interact and go to the place where they are alive and they roam, and what are they, we know certain creatures do have, camouflage capability. Jeff, I've shown you the video of this before. The octopus, there's a specific octopus that when it lands on something, not only changes its color, but changes the texture of its skin to mimic what it's on. And that's the most amazing thing. I've shown Jeff this a couple times. I'm like, how can a creature do that? And so scientists it's shape shifting, but it's underwater. So to think that there's not a shapeshifter that's a mammal or that's a land creature, there very well could be. We know that octopus exists, and it's the just to see it, and I'll actually post it in Beyond Our World, Jeff, but to see it land on a rock and not only take the color of the rock, but also take, or it could be kelp, and take the texture of the kelp and flow like the kelp. I mean, it's shape shifting. So I know it exists because that creature does it. So the question is there a creature that's on land that doesn't? And my answer keeps coming back, yes, I think there is. I think there is something to that. I can't rule it out.
Did you know that in the Ute creation story, the Ute creation god named Sinoif is traditionally represented as an upright anthropomorphic canine?
Really?
Just to kind of tie everything together, yeah.
Crazy.
That is.
Wow.
They're one of the many will tell you that their creation was an ascent from something inside the earth. You'll hear the same thing from Maya and Navajo people.
Sure.
Navajo will also relay that belief that there was some sort of ascent, and they will always tell you that when they ascended, the skinwalkers were already populating the earth.
Wow.
There's some sort of disconnect there, saying they are not human, they're something different. They can manifest themselves as human, but when we ascended, when we were created, when we landed upon the face of the earth, they were already here.
So now we're saying that the avatar for the tribe that you mentioned, the skinwalker mimics the avatar's ability to also polymorph, is what we're saying.
Yeah, it's a very interesting creation story.
Now, does it have the same abilities as a skinwalker? The actual God representation? I mean, when you say anthropomorphic, we're giving human qualities to something that's, or in this case, are we giving skinwalker qualities to something in the godly realm? And it's kind of curious that they chose that specific, manifestation of their God.
Yeah, the half man, half wolf theme is something that's very frequently recurring, and if there's any sort of transformation, they will always say it's to a wolf. Now, what we've heard from the ranch is there was one experience, and they described it as some sort of biological nanotechnology observed under infrared light. Off in the distance, they saw, I think I sent Jeff a short clip earlier,
Okay.
but it was that black ball that was expanding and contracting. It looks like a black ball in a field. And
Yes.
what I've been told is that they once witnessed this, and this is why the rule came that you should not shoot anything. That this once broke apart into what appeared like a swarm of bees, almost like using it as intelligent biological nanotechnology,
Wow.
and reforming itself in what appeared to be the shape of a small animal,
Wow.
and then fading out.
And then fading out.
And the stories you'll hear are insane. I'm just excited to be down there.
Yeah.
You know, and our friend Jake, said it's very much like Anubis, the dog god of the underworld, was half man, half god, or half canine, half god, and ruled the underworld for the Egyptians.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And
here
that's something
in
too.
Central America,
Yeah,
you'll
very
hear
very
about
similar
something
motifs.
called El Carejo, which is the trickster, the demonic
Yes.
trickster, the walking dog.
Yep.
The walking dog.
Yep.
Sure is. And Joseph Campbell talks about that quite a bit, the trickster god of the natives, as being one of the overarching motifs that keeps coming up. And it's found not only in Native American culture, but cultures around the world, that trickster god. Typically half canine too, for whatever reason. I can't explain that, but it's kind of curious that theme keeps coming up over and over and over again.
Exactly. And that's what you talk about, repeatable.
Repeatable.
And the thing is, you talk to the different tribes, the different Native American peoples that might be separated by the entire continent, and yet they have a lot of similarities in their traditions and in their beliefs. And they talk about star people. How many times have we heard them talk about the star people? It's so we know that. I mean, if you don't want to believe it yourself, that there are aliens that come to this planet from elsewhere, look at the Native Americans have talked, or Native peoples have been talking about it for ages. The star people that they have been in communication with. Who would they have talked to when they first came here 1,000 years ago? The Native Americans, or the native peoples of whatever country or land. They would have talked to them because that's who was around, right? So, and they've carried that. So I don't know. It's a subject that just fascinates me, and I can't wait. I have talked to some people already. But I'm going to really start to document this as I go around and I talk to these different peoples. And I've already made some contacts on this of people I'm going to meet with. And so it's going to be fascinating, and I know it's going to open me into a whole new realm, like it has Christian, of a whole new world that I am unfamiliar with. But I can't wait to delve into it deeper.
Have you heard the story of, I don't know the truth of it, but have you heard the story of why Bigelow discontinued kind of the operations at the ranch?
No, I didn't.
Supposedly, it was, I'll leave with this, but supposedly, when you talk about the hitchhiker effect, so many of the NID scientists had their own experience. Supposedly, it was his wife that had an experience in their bedroom. Really? And after that, he says, this is something, I don't know anything more than that. He's apparently released some of that information. He's kind of vaguely hinted at that information in past interviews that he's done. But I need to verify some of this. But supposedly the reason that Bigelow kind of stopped his activities at the ranch was because something manifested itself to the wife. And he says, this is now too close to home for me.
Wow.
And moved on to
Makes
other
sense.
activities.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, would something like that? That, I guess that's why when I do paranormal investigations, I don't do one in my own home, because I don't want to know what's there. If we're coexisting, good deal. We're all good. I'll just keep it at that. I'll do paranormal investigations anywhere else, just not in my own home. Is that kind of weird? Maybe, but that's just what, if there's an entity that lives in the same house I'm in, cool. Let's we can share the same space. Oh man, this has been fun. I tell you what, and please, Christian, when you're out there, let's stay in touch. You and I, we chat, back and forth.
He definitely has to come back on, Jeff, as the Skinwalker series continues and Christian gets more into the research and report back to what his findings are. I'd be fascinated, to see what Christian comes up with. I think he's frozen, Christian.
I think he is too.
he's been sucked away by a portal.
Yeah, I will. I'll keep in touch. Hopefully, we get quite a bit. One of the goals for this podcast, really, the podcast and the documentary that we're doing, is we wanted to document exclusive stories and exclusive content. And
That's
even
awesome.
before filming, we already know that we can guarantee that. So we're really excited to add to what has been done.
It's going to be amazing.
We can't compare it to what NIDS did. We can't compare it to the scientific gains that have been done under Dr. Taylor and everyone else at the ranch. But if we can add, one new story that you haven't heard, I think we'll be really happy.
And what I love what you're doing is you're providing context, historical context, which currently I don't think is being done as much. I mean, they touched on a little in the past couple episodes, but you're really digging down into historically what the locals are saying, what the history is saying, what the tribes are saying, what's been seen, what you're experiencing on a very spiritual, metaphysical level, and that's not being covered. It's being covered very scientifically with some of that. But context is everything, and we talk about it all the time on the various shows. If you can put context to it, you're golden. You understand the root of it, and that's going to be so valuable to unpacking, the Skinwalker Ranch anomalies in my mind,
or the Uinta Basin anomalies.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's got to be a reason why this is happening there. Why there? Why of all places? And we know that it does. It happens in other places. Things are, it's not just there, but it seems to be, for whatever reason, concentrated in that area. That there seems to be more there than elsewhere. But we'll find out. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'm excited to see what you come up with.
Awesome.
And what I find out when I'm out and about doing the same thing. So similar stuff. Anyway. Wow, this has been a great show. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
We're going on a 2.5 hours, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But yeah, let's stay in touch, Christian. I really want to know if you have any tidbits that you can share while you're out there. We can have you come on the show, but I know you're going to be busy. So just if you shoot me something, I'll surely talk about it next Wednesday. John and I will be talking about episodes 5 and probably 6 if there's one next Tuesday. Yeah. 5 and 6 we'll be talking about Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Go ahead.
I've got a story.
Okay.
2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. This will be in the documentary, but I've already told plenty of people, so I can let this one out there. 2 nights ago, where we are going to, had an 8,700-pound storage trailer somehow silently picked up and moved to a different location.
What?
Security got up they got up yesterday morning and saw that an 8,700-pound trailer had been moved several feet. And there are marks. There's a tin roof on one of the sheds. It has been pushed in, and there are vertical marks as if it was picked up and dropped. It was not blown.
Wow.
It was picked up and dropped. Their initial thought was that nothing but a helicopter could have done this. That was the first time they had noticed it, but that was the big freak out yesterday. So that's what we're going into, an 8,700-pound storage trailer that somehow moved location, which is what the Shermans talked about. There's a famous story of Terry Sherman's wife putting away groceries, and as she's down to like the last bag, she turns around. All the groceries had somehow come out of the pantry and been put back in the bags.
Whoa.
There are also stories of I think it was a son who had friends over, and they had bags of feed of some sort, something like that, were found something like 800 feet away from where they were placed. I think they were placed next to a barn. These feed bags were found 800 feet away after he had gone inside. And there was something else that I can't recall what it was that was found in the top of a tree.
Wow.
But the moving stuff is a common theme.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. And you're going to experience this stuff, so.
Man.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But all right, so I tell you what, and that's fascinating. I mean, moving a trailer that heavy and that hope that doesn't happen to my fifth wheel when I'm out there at Bottle.
Jeff. If it's going to happen to anyone, Jeff, it's going to be you.
Woo!
There he goes.
For a second. Oh, it was over there. Oh my goodness.
That's too
All
good.
right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there, folks. Man, I tell you what, really cool stuff. Thank you, Christian, for popping in and telling us about all this. And like I said, I really look forward to what you have to share with us next week.
Yep.
So before I disconnect again, I'm going to say, hopefully I'll have a better internet connection next time. But again, thank you, John. And thank you, Christian, for popping by. And thank you, folks, for hanging out with us here tonight and discussing Skinwalker Ranch and some other stuff happening in Uintah Basin. We're going to do this again next Wednesday at 7:30. We're going to talk about episodes 5 and 6. And I'm really excited about number 5 because, man, they saw the an actual ball anomaly moving on its own around the trees and stuff. And they documented it. They got it on camera.
Amazing.
It truly is. And it might be this whole thing that we were just talking about with
manifestation of the Skinwalker. Yeah,
exactly. Something like that was taking place there. It has to be.
Crazy
So
stuff.
We'll get into that next week. So thanks again, folks, for being here. And we'll see you again next time right here on the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. Good night now.